Hello everybody, welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. Hope everybody is doing well. We got the latest Manchester United updates, big stuff around Viktor Gyokeres. We also have some stuff about the goalkeeping position, Alejandro Garnacho. Some good amount of updates about Mbumo as well. So we're going to get into all that stuff, plus anything that breaks while we are live, we will cover as well. Make sure you smash the like button, please, because it helps the channel grow. So do that for us. It helps us out a lot. Also, we're on our way to 3,500 subscribers, so if you're not a subscriber, make sure you subscribe. And also hit the notification bell icon so you don't miss a live and you stay up to date. And we also have the RDE VIP member section. So if you want to join and become a member, you get exclusive perks as well. They're in the channel description as well, and they let you know. But you get essentially a little badge next to your name, and you get some preference in the chat as well, and some other good stuff, and you get access to these emojis that we got. Very good emojis. So yeah, but other than that, let's just get straight into the news. Shout out to everybody that's already here in the chat and already watching. But let's just kick off the show with this. So lots of people obviously concerned about the goalkeeping position. Many questions about the goalkeeping position. Many people asking for Onana obviously to be sold and the new goalkeeper to come in. We got two small updates about this. One is that obviously Emi Martinez has been linked with Manchester United for a couple weeks now. And again, we got an update saying that if Manchester United sell Andre Onana, they will go all out for Emiliano Martinez. Now, I like Emi Martinez. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I pretty much said sticking with Onana is a big oh no. Can't do it. I've seen, some people, they don't really like or rate Emi. They say there's always a mistake in him. It might be, but I think overall, I rate him. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. He's also a character. He has his moments. He has one or two of those incidents. I mean, it happened against us on the last, match of the season where he came out of the goal, took out Rasmus, got a red card, put Villa in a bad spot, and ended up losing the match to a very, very poor, one of the worst United teams there ever was. So it does happen, but I think in case of his ability, shot stopping, I think he's absolutely excellent. He's also good at sweeper keeper. It's exactly what we need. And I'm here for it because it's a change and it's a move, and I'll take it. He's experienced in the Prem. He's proven to be very good. He's had a very good time since going to Villa as well. Played at Arsenal, so I like him. I think he's good. Particularly when you look at some of the other options kind of being linked with us. I know people have their preferences in goalkeeper, and they would pick a certain goalkeeper over another. But just in terms of who we've been linked with, which hasn't been a lot, but there's been a couple, I think probably at this moment in time, considering Jean Garcia is gone, I think the names listed with Manchester United, I think Emi Martinez is probably the strongest candidate. So, I would go with him. I don't have a problem with him. I think it's a positive move. I think it's a good move. He's definitely better than Onana. And as long as we're upgrading on Onana, I think it's a W. Might not be a huge W. Might not be as big as getting, one of your favorites or whoever you might want. But I think everybody could probably agree that he's definitely better than Onana, and it would definitely be an upgrade, and we should be looking better in the goalkeeping department. So we'll see how that goes. Again, the goalkeeping position is one that we're going to have to wait a little bit more till we get Mbumo over the line and we figure out what we do with the striker, which we're all hoping obviously is Viktor Gyokeres. Fabrizio Romano coming out with some big updates today. So and some positive updates in Manchester United's corner, really. So we will see. But there is one small other thing that goes with this goalkeeping update that came today. And this is the one that says Manchester United and Manchester City, both of whom are also interested in Donnarumma, are also interested in Lille shot stopper Lucas Chevalier. As Nubis Kubis says, where he just mentioned, why not go after the goalkeeper that Villa want to replace Emi with, Lucas Chevalier? Well, here he is. I mean, you could do this. You could make this move. I think as United fans, we have to remember, we got to take everything especially if they seem to be sort of one-offs mentions. If it's not concrete, if it's not like with follow-ups, if it doesn't persist over a period of time, we got to be a little bit careful, because our name does get thrown out there with literally every single transfer, and we're not even involved in half of them. We're not even looking to really sign the player. You know, they mentioned Donnarumma here. I know the story broke that United are interested in Donnarumma. We're not getting Donnarumma. It's not happening. I don't think Donnarumma is leaving. Donnarumma, going off of his comments a few weeks ago, he was looking to stay. He wants to stay at PSG. He said if he can find an agreement with the club, he would stay. I think our name is probably being used in this once again, probably through his agent, probably just to put a little bit of pressure on PSG to get things kind of moving and maybe make them a little antsy so they're not so comfortable at the negotiations table, and maybe they could get what they want. I don't think we have a chance of getting Donnarumma unless it comes out that PSG and Donnarumma cannot come to an agreement, and then Donnarumma is essentially therefore on the market. Then I don't think there's a chance right now. I think this is probably not that concrete of an update. So anybody hoping for Donnarumma, I mean, I feel you. But I just don't think it's going to happen in that manner. So unless something comes out from the PSG side that says that, you know, negotiations are broken down and he won't be staying at the football club. Otherwise, I don't think it's happening. But Steph started off the show, and I don't know why I can't scroll in my chat. So I see half her comment. She said, moving Monday, no moves as yet. There's hope. Big up Eric and chat legends. Big up yourself, Steph. Lyle is here, says, hey, Eric and all you Reds. And Nubis Kubis says, Eric Targaryen is back. He also said Emi Martinez is not that good. He made silly mistakes like Onana. Well, that's exactly what I was saying. Some people rate him quite highly. Some people say things like Nubis Kubis is saying, where they don't rate him that much. And they point out that he does make silly mistakes that are similar to Onana. I think, I admit, I think, you know, he has here and there. I don't think it's to the level of Onana, and I don't think it's to, like, the consistency that Onana has done so. And I do think that, I mean, Martinez is a level above Onana. I think he is at least one level better than Andre Onana. But, you know, is he probably, you know, if we sat here and we made a list of like the top 5 goalkeepers we would love to have, would he be in it? Maybe some would put him in there, but I don't know if he would. I don't think he would crack the top 3, right? But again, I think if it's a move we could do, if it's a change we could do, because for me, I look at it and it's like, well, what if we offered the ones that are against Emi Martinez? What if the ultimatum was Emi Martinez or we stick with Onana? Because I feel like all the people that don't really rate Emi Martinez, like that, like how some others do, I think a lot of people would probably still take Emi Martinez over Onana. So, I mean, we just got to see, but we're going to have to wait, because we got to wrap up the Mbumo deal. We got to get the striker in. And we do have an update about that. And that's certainly the story that has been told to us for the past numerous amounts of weeks, is that United are focusing on the attack. The attack is the main priority. Fix the attack, get the attacking signings in. And then we're going to move backwards. And the midfielder has always been mentioned, so they are, and they do want the central midfielder. And they are also looking at the goalkeeping position for this season. Again, I think that's 5 signings. I've always said we need 5 signings at the minimum to give Ruben a good shot, to make some good changes, to have maybe a positive, better season. So 5. I kind of upped it to 7 after the Europa League loss, because, I mean, to lose the final the way we did, especially against Spurs, I just felt like we probably need to throw in another 2 in there, because we need to change the squad as much as possible. I don't know if we're going to actually be able to do 7, but if they could do 5, I think 5 has to be the minimum, and 5 needs to happen for sure. You know, and if they could get 3 or 4 in as quickly as possible, And maybe the 5th is a little bit of a late one. We'll take it on that part because we know in the past United, have done things where, we're bringing in 2 players a couple days before the window ends. They've missed the whole preseason. They're not up to speed. They're coming from a different league. They're going to have to take time to adjust. It takes them a couple months to actually get up to speed for United and play actually decently. And catch a bit of form and stuff like that. So we need to get in that way. Nubis says as a stopgap due to a limited budget, I would take Emmy over Onana. Yeah, and that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. Nubis Kubis. I'm not like. Listen, if we sign Viktor Gyokeres, I'll go absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? If we sign Emmy Martinez, I'll be excited, but I'm not gonna go crazy. It's not like. We're not, Emmy Martinez, I wouldn't say he's like the Gyokeres of our goalkeeping position. I think he's better than Onana. I think it would be a step up for us. I think it would be an improvement. And I think, just like how you're saying, Nubis, like, kind of considering our situation with maybe it's hard to maneuver and maybe a limited budget because we're spending a good amount of money on the attack, which I do agree with. If we can still manage to make a change at goalkeeper and it's one that improves us and we have a better goalkeeper, then I'm okay with that. And I'll go with it. I think it'll be good enough, for the time being. And then we got to see what we do with the number 2 as well, because, being there, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? I always kind of felt like he wanted to go because he's not going to get, I don't think he's going to ever get the opportunity to be number 1 because I just don't think he can be number 1 because I don't think he has all the qualities to be number 1. Specifically because he can't kick the ball. You know what I mean? Grace says title charge. Here we go. Grace, don't do that to us. Don't do that to us. Steph says goalkeepers always better perform with a settled back 3 or 4 in front of them. A good goalkeeper is worth 15 more Premier League points a season. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it, Steph. We've seen examples of it, of how the goalkeeper can cost you points or can cost you matches or can cost you, if you're in cup games, important ties. Because, I mean, Onana's got us single-handedly basically knocked out of the Champions League 2 seasons ago. And this past season, I mean, wasn't good. He almost messed it up for us. I mean, we ended up losing the final, so I guess it kind of didn't really matter in the end, but he almost messed up the game against Lyon with the 2 mistakes, and that game was in the bag for us. We had that game, and we ended up walking away with a draw, and made the game much closer than it should have. And then in the league, there was numerous mistakes, numerous soft goals or bad goals given up, that costed us matches or costed us points. So yeah, Grace has 7 signings. Eric is drunk. No, I mean, I think they could do it if they move the players on, and they're serious about their business. I don't see why you can't do it. I don't see why you can't do it. There's no excuses for these guys because the job that they have at hand, the project that we have at hand, we are at a pivotal moment, and I still hold my belief that they should be trying to change as much as possible, and they should be trying to remove and add as much as possible. And I would like to set the bar high for them because I said 5 is a minimum. It looks like they're going after 5. But considering the fact that we lost the Europa League final and what's happened to the football club after, I raised it to 7 because I think, like I've always said, the impacts and the fallout of losing that Europa League final and not being in Europe has consequences. And I think the consequences is that now we need even more change. I know it's difficult and it's probably not going to happen, but I would still be there pushing them, telling them you got to get 7, because when they fail to get 7 and they get 6 or they get 5, we're still in a good position. We got to keep the bar high. We got to keep the bar high. Nubis Kuba said, I can't watch another season with Onana, but who would want to buy him? I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, Saudi Arabia has been one that's kind of been talked about a little bit, but again, I think this is one that we're probably going to have to wait. Something that I was also thinking about. Last show, I was saying like, look at these clubs going in buying players. No one's really looking at Cass. How do we get rid of Cass? We need to get rid of Cass. There was a story that, to get in a new midfielder, we gotta either get rid of Casemiro or get rid of Maino. And my argument was obviously don't get rid of Maino. It doesn't make sense. There's nothing you could tell me that would make me be okay with Maino going. But I was like, the problem is there's no interest for Cass. And it seems like there's not really that much interest in Onana. But the thing is, the window is open for a week and it's closing. And it's open for the Club World Cup. And that's why these transfers are sort of happening right now, because people are trying to get players in. I mean, teams are trying to get players in for the Club World Cup. But when it reopens, we still have the rest of the summer. And then there'll be more moves and more transfers and maybe more interest. Some players are, currently as well. A lot of them are on holiday or vacation, or, they just played a couple international matches and stuff like that. And now they're going to go on vacation. So there's still a lot of time, and I think things can develop. So right now it might look sort of bleak, but maybe some things start rolling once the window opens back up and maybe a couple weeks pass. And we'll see, what comes out of that. Grace says Onana is better than Van der Sar. I think you're the one that's Sean Grace, not me. You're saying that. I'm asking for 7 signings. I think that's more realistic than saying Onana is better than Van der Sar. Grace says Onana is a fantastic goalkeeper. You should all stop bullying. We're not bullying him. We're just calling him out for what he is. He's not a very good goalkeeper. That's not bullying. Sometimes the truth hurts. Grace says we have never signed 7 players, and that's why we should do it now. Because if there was ever time to do that now, it would be now. If there was ever a time to sign 7 players, and we've never signed 7 players, it would be now, considering we just had literally our worst season ever, and we lost the Europa League final and a trophy to Tottenham Hotspur. Desperate times call for desperate measures, I would say. Or desperate times call for extreme measures, and extreme measures, figuring out how to get 7 transfers in. I don't think it'll happen, but minimum 5. If they do the 5, I think we'll be all right. But I would push. We're getting more updates, by the way, about Gyokeres as well, so we will get to that, and I will cover those. So make sure you stick around. Make sure you smash the like button as well. There's 17 people watching. We got 12 likes, so we're doing pretty good so far. Let's catch up. Let's get 17 out of 17. Nubis Kuba says, I can see 7 new signings, but Eric is going to hate it because it means selling Maino. Yeah, no. See, this is what I don't agree. They can't tell me. Even, listen, if they came to me and they told me, and I know this kind of goes against what I've been saying, but I don't consider Maino one of those players that is necessary to get rid of. It doesn't make sense. I view him as part of the long-term overall project. So if they came to me and they said, we could get you 7 signings, but we have to sell Maino, I'd tell them just stay with the 5 then. Because I just don't, there's nothing anybody can say, and there's nothing the club can put out that would justify selling Kobbie Mainoo. At his age, with his talent that he already has, and what they've been telling us to build, and that it's for long term, and they've been looking at these sorts of players, it doesn't make sense to sell a player like that. I would have sold Bruno before I sold Kobbie Mainoo, because Bruno's 31. That one you can argue probably both sides. Bruno's our most important player, but also Bruno's 31 and 100 million. Kobbie Mainoo's young and potential. We're already getting rid of Garnacho. I don't want to see Kobbie and Garnacho go in the same window at the same time. 2 of our brightest, youngest players that have cracked into the first team. And I understand, Garna going. I get it. I don't necessarily I still don't really like it because he's young, and I don't write young players off like that. I think it's kind of ridiculous in today's day and age, the way some people are. I think a lot of it is just bullshit on the internet, to be quite honest. But yeah, I mean, 2-3 years time, he could be one of the top performing players, one of the top performing wingers, Garnacho. The same thing can happen with Mano. So I don't really think it's a good move. It doesn't make sense in a footballing decision. But Garnacho, I get it because to a certain extent, because I think he really doesn't fit this system, and also there's been slight problems with his attitude and sort of behavior and stuff. And I know that's a big thing for Ruben Amorim, so it makes a little bit more sense. And then there's the club side with the money, and you get the pure profit from Garnacho. I get that. With Kobe, it's just like it just smells more money than footballing sense. It smells more. Oh, it's just another player that we could get more pure profit from. So I don't really think it's a good idea. Temeskin says United, what happened to him? Bomo still do. Well, we're gonna get to that in a couple of seconds. So give me a second. Grace is breaking. Gyokeres is close. It's really close. Really, really close. The closest the close. That's right. That is the updates. Essentially. Grace says I bought an Onana kid. I love the Glazers. Take my money. They are kind people. You have definitely been drinking today, Grace. You have definitely been drinking today. But since we were just talking about Garnacho, real quick, we'll just update it because it was small updates. So, we got this update saying 2-3 clubs that inquired about Garnacho are Chelsea and Arsenal. Garnacho has a preference to stay in the Premier League. Now, for those of you that are aware and up to date, obviously, Garnacho has always been touted with a move to Napoli. This was since January. And I think Saudi Arabia might have entered the frame a little bit or mentioned by name, and a couple other places. But today, there's been this update saying that Garnacho doesn't want to go to Italy. He actually wants to stay in the Prem. And apparently, I mean, Chelsea has been one that's also been linked since January. Now Arsenal have entered the frame, apparently. And now there's 2 Premier League clubs, potentially, that may get Alejandro Garnacho. We may see him in one of our London rivals clubs, which I think even the people that want to sell him, majority, probably, I'm sure there's a few that won't give a crap because they really think that he's one of the worst players in the world. But I think even some of the people that want to get rid of him or let him go or sell him or think that he should go, I think they won't like the idea of seeing him at Arsenal or Chelsea playing in the Prem and playing against us. I would say, though, it would make it interesting because a lot of the players that we have bought, I've always chalked it down to bad recruitment, which is why they perform bad for us. They go to other leagues and they play different type of football, different style. It's a different speed. It's a different strength. And they perform better there. And I've always said that it's because we're just bad at recruitment. We should have never bought those players. They didn't fit our team. They didn't fit the league. They didn't have the attributes. They didn't have the characteristics for it. But if Garnacho goes from United to Arsenal or Chelsea, well, the direct rivals, the teams that are actually better put together than us, they're above us, way above us, off of last season. And it'll be interesting to see how he would do. I think I've always said wherever he goes, I think he'll probably still end up good. I don't think it matters. So it won't be that much of a shock. But I think it would be one that you could say, if he is hitting highs of highs and he's looking absolutely spectacular, I think that this is one, if he does end up there, that will be 100% blame on us. And it'd be like, nope, our club was just the one that was basically holding him back or ruined him or whatever you want to call it. So, Lion is here as well, says, if we sell Rashford, Garna, and Mano, surely we would be safe for the next 5 years. Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, that's all pure profit money, and you're talking, 30 to 40 million for Rashford. I don't know what you're going to get for Garner because I think it depends where he goes. Again, if he goes to Arsenal or Chelsea, There's no way we should be letting him go for 40. If it's inside the Premier League, we need to be asking for extra money for sure, and we need to make it as expensive as possible. If it's outside of the league, maybe you could take a little bit less because it's not going to people that we're looking to compete against. Because at the end of the day, Arsenal and Chelsea are, top 4, top 5 teams, and we're looking to break in there, and we're giving them a player. And that could come back to bite us in the ass. So if you're going to do that, I don't even like those transfers. It's actually against my sort of moral code. I wouldn't even do it. Even if it was the only 2 transfers on the table, I wouldn't accept it. I don't like getting rid of players and giving them directly to rivals. When we took Robin van Persie from Arsenal, I couldn't believe it when that happened because I was like, he's clearly the best player, but how we managed to get that and how they managed to let that happen was beyond me. And obviously, we know what happened. He came and we won the league immediately, and we made them look like complete idiots for it. So I don't like that. I don't like that aspect at all. Andero is here as well. This says, hi, everyone. Hi, Andero. Nubis says, what's the asking price for Garnacho? Keep hearing 40 million. Freaking low. Yeah, United were holding out for 60 at one point, but as of late, it's been being reported that they're willing to let him go for about 40. And this is what I'm saying. If it is Chelsea or it is Arsenal, there's no way you can let him go for 40. 40 is already low in our opinion. In most of our opinions, it's already low. 40 is already too low. If you're giving him to a Premier League club, there is no way you can sell him for 40. Because I would argue to send him to Chelsea or Arsenal, 60 is low. So, like, if we send him to Italy, maybe 40, 45 million, it's still low. I don't like it. I would want more. I would ask for more originally. But from the lesser of 2 evils, I'd rather send him to Napoli for 40 and send him to Chelsea or Arsenal for 40. So we gotta see. Chad says Garnacho is not wanted anywhere. Shame. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily true. I just think I think he is wanted. I just think that the problem kind of is the price. I think United were originally trying to get as much money as possible and they were holding out. Now, obviously, the situation has changed because, clubs have been alerted that he is transfer listed, and I think clubs are trying to lowball. So we have a difficult situation that we're in, and we need to try and get the most money possible. But I think there are clubs that are interested for sure because there's been a couple already named. So I don't think he's not wanted anywhere. I think Jadon Sancho is not really wanted anywhere. Or particularly maybe Marcus Rashford or or Casemiro. I mean, Rashford's one is hard because of his wages, and also he just wants Barcelona and doesn't really want to go anywhere else. Cass is old, and I think he's one that's definitely not wanted. And probably I would say Onana seems like one that's not really wanted too much right now. But I think Garnacho, his age, how much experience he's already gotten at a professional level. I think he's definitely wanted by a few clubs out there for sure, like 4 or 5, for sure. But yeah. Andera says, I can't see how Garnacho gets regular football at Arsenal. A very strange connection, that one. I can't see that happening. My guess is that he will go abroad somewhere. Well, I do know that Arsenal do want to get rid of Martinelli. So if Martinelli goes, I guess there's a spot open that he can fight for. Because I mean, it is Martinelli does play on that left-hand side, and Arsenal apparently they want to get rid of Martinelli. They want to move him on. There was talk about Rodrigo, because apparently Rodrigo is getting pushed out of Real Madrid. I don't know how that's going to swing. I'm not an Arsenal fan, so I don't follow it too in depth. But I was talking to my friend the other day. He's an Arsenal fan, and he said that he also said that they were trying to get rid of Martinelli and bring in sort of a new left winger. So we'll see. Chad says sell our future and keep a 31-year-old captain, and we should be all right for the next 5 years. Yeah, that's not what he meant. He meant money wise, Chad. Um, he didn't mean performance wise. He said we'll be all right the next 5 years in terms of PSR because all those transfers, Garnacho, Rashford, and Mainu, they're all pure profit sales, which does wonders to the transfer balance. But in terms of the team, then it does something else. So, but he wasn't saying it in that manner. He was saying it in the fact that, you know, financially, financially. Yeah, performance is what counts. That's fine, but he wasn't talking about it in performance wise. I'm just letting you know that he was saying it in the financial aspect. Um, Nubis says Gyokeres has been left furious with Sporting as they have been demanding 67 million pounds for him. Previously, Sporting agreed that they would demand 50 million pounds plus 8.4 million in add-ons this summer. Well, interesting. We're gonna get there. I promise, Nubis. We're gonna get there. Chad says Dortmund wants Sancho, Villa want Rashford, and any club in Turkey will take Casemiro. Yeah. I mean, I don't think Villa want Rashford anymore, though, because I haven't seen any updates about that, and Rashford doesn't want them, and we'll see what happens with Dortmund and Sancho, because last time Dortmund talked a big game, but they didn't want to put their money where their mouth was, because, you know, they were putting up so many posts of how great he was, but they didn't want to pay. So if he was that good, I don't understand why they didn't pay. They say that they didn't have the money, which is just bullshit. And they're probably going to take him on loan anyway. I mean, Sancho's going to be a loan, so. Sancho's going to be a loan. He's going to go somewhere. He's going to get the wage that we pay him, and he's going to run out his contract, and then he's going to go somewhere for free. That's how that's going to play out. Chad says our fans are funny because they want Garnacho to win so badly. They want him to go to our rivals. Yeah, I don't get that. That's just weird. Line says Villa can't afford Rashi, I think. No, I mean they could have, but I think Rashford just doesn't want to go there. I think he would have gave it some thought if they finished in the Champions League. But they didn't finish in the Champions League, so I think that was pretty much just him like, nah. And he's always had this affection for Barcelona. Again, he left basically the last day of the window in January because he wanted Barca and he was waiting for Barca. He had Villa was on the table, and so was like two other offers, and he could have picked those, you know, weeks before that, but he waited for Barca. And I always said while he was there, I was like, I always had a feeling. I was like, he might not stay at Villa because I still think that he wants Barcelona. Because, again, when you talk about Rashford, it has to be Rashford and then his brand, that his people. And if you leave a club like Manchester United, considering you're, you know, a Manchester United youth academy, and they worry about his image, it would be quite bad move to try and go to a Liverpool, a Chelsea, an Arsenal. So you can't really go to any other club in the Prem like that. You could go to Villa because it's Villa, and they're not Liverpool, they're not Man City and stuff like that. They're not like really rivals like that. You can go to Villa, but when you talk in terms of name and stature, Villa is not United. When you look outside, there's a couple teams you could probably go to, maybe Bayern, but I don't think Bayern would want him in any case because Bayern don't operate like that, and they're not going to pay Marcus Rashford anywhere close to the money that he's making right now. And then pretty much you have Barca and you have Real Madrid, and Real Madrid are good. They don't need Rashford, and really that just leaves Barcelona, who are been slightly interested, but not really interested. I don't really know what their whole thing is. But I mean, we'll see. And Barcelona want Rashford. Well, I mean, we'll find out how much they want him with how quickly that deal moves because, you know, his name has been linked with Barca, but there hasn't been any significant sort of movement on that end. And Deco didn't give the best update last time from his mouth about Marcus Rashford. So we'll see how that goes. I hope they do because that means that we can sell him quickly and we could get over with it and we could use the funds. I hope it doesn't drag out. I hope Marcus Rashford isn't still on the books at the club by the time we hit August because he's still waiting for Barcelona. So Andera says the big issue with Garnacho is his attitude and temperament. We have all heard on Mikel Arteta, haven't we? I think this would be a bad move for Garnacho. Yeah, maybe, but at this point, he's not going to be a United player anymore. So whatever happens to him, it's on him. He's got the choice that he's got to make. If he chooses to go there, then he's got to reap what he sows, whatever happens. That's what the papers say. The same papers write headlines everyone talks about. Yeah, I don't know. I don't read papers though. I go to individuals. I go to journalists themselves. Nubis Kuba says, I thought Villa are at the bottom 3 team in danger of PSR. They are broke. Actually, that's a very good point. They are. They're in a bad spot as well. So that might have had some impact. So good point, Nubis. Good point. That slipped my mind. The same papers that Eric looks at. They're not papers. They're journalists. And they don't always write articles. Sometimes they give updates on podcasts and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not papers. And there says, in other words, I can't see that news about Arsenal being interested in Garnacho. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, this is the first time that it got mentioned. It's not like the strongest link. Again, it's not like the strongest update. It's come from basically one person. And it was the first time that was mentioned. So when these things happen, you just got to wait to see if anything actually materializes out of this sort of stuff. Again, like I said in the beginning of the show, United get mentioned a lot with a lot of things. When I picked up the goalkeeping thing, and when it's a one-off type of thing, you kind of have to wait to see if we're going to get any more information, any more news. If we don't get that, then clearly, obviously, it was a lot of fluff. It was bullshit. But if there's some truth to it, then this sort of stories will continue to develop over the next days, weeks, whatever it may take. So Lion says, well, it's not completely his choice where he goes. If United don't want to sell him to the London clubs, they don't have to. Well, that is true. That is true to a certain degree. But it is also his choice as well, because I mean he could try and force United to sell him to the London club by saying, I don't give a shit what offer you get from Napoli. I want to go to Arsenal or Chelsea. So either you accept that bid or I'm not accepting any bid and I'll just sit here. And you don't want me. So we'll see. Social media is the modern day papers. Not so. Paper is a term. I mean, I guess, but it is. But what I'm saying is, like, we followed the journalists. So, I mean, if the Daily Mail writes 5 articles, it depends what journalist is writing which article or putting out whatever news. Because sometimes they'll write an article and it'll be a shit journalist or whatever, or somebody that's not that credible. Obviously, there's the bigger names. So that's why I try to follow the names of the people, because I go on individuals. They're putting it on their name. They have a track record or a history of, do they put out a lot of bullshit? Do they put out stuff that's accurate or stuff like that? So Yeah, I go through. I try to go through individuals. But sometimes I just grab things off of whatever the aggregators give us as well, because I mean, at the end of the day, that's really their job. They're aggregators. They're supposed to be gathering the news for the United fans and reposting it, and they're supposed to. Unfortunately, some of them they get caught up with the clicks and trying to be first and trying to get these followers, but they're supposed to be giving us news from journalists that they know are actually credible and are rated well. So, um, well, Lion says so. Let him sit. Well, that's always the back and forth. That's always the tug of war, isn't it? You know, like who's gonna budge first? It's like playing chicken in the road. You know, who's gonna budge first? Um, because it depends how it goes. I mean, Garnacho could be stubborn and he could be sort of hot headed about it, and it could be like, I'll sit here. I won't move. You guys need money. You guys want to get rid of me. You need this money to go sign whatever player you need. And I don't want to go to fucking Italy. So either you know work something out with one of these two Premier League teams, or you know we'll just sit here together. Um, that might not happen. He might just be like, all right, I'm out. You know, but it could happen because it's happened before with other people. And you know it's not that far. Line says if he wants to mess up his career, so be it. Eventually, we'll say fine. Well, maybe, maybe, but also it depends. Depends on United, you know. Depends how anxious we are. Um, depends if we just, you know, because sometimes you've been like in a fight, an argument, and at some point you're like, yeah, this shit ain't really worth it, and you just give the other person the W just so you could walk away. You know what I mean? Because you're like, this is a waste of time. Um, and I need to go do other stuff or you know whatever, focus on some other things, and maybe that might happen. So, um, Nubis Kubis says if United couldn't sign many players this summer, who do you think should be fast tracked from the academy? Mm, I don't actually necessarily like fast tracking young players, but especially at the situation that we're in. I don't really like it, but I think considering ones that have already kind of got in a little bit, I think we should be using Almas for sure more, especially because we can't rely on Luke Shaw. So Almas, I think, has to be one that has to be in the squad. We obviously have Heaven, so he's already there. I don't think Cheeto's ready, so I wouldn't necessarily do that. I think Cheeto needs a loan, to be quite honest, and maybe Fredrickson since he's already poking around. I know there's a couple younger ones like there's Shea Lacey and stuff like that. I don't know. It's hard because I don't. For me personally, I always say like if I can't watch them in training, and I don't really watch the youth games either. So, but if I can't watch them in training, if I can't see how they perform against the men, it's hard to really dictate, can we take a chance on this kid, you know, or is he just going to be absolutely overwhelmed by it? So, but I think, to be fair, Nubis, I think at some point we would probably, you know, if we get in a situation, maybe we have some injuries or something like that, um, you know, then I think, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Um, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit early. I mean, I'll look forward to seeing them on the preseason, and you know, I'll judge them from there a little bit more, and then I'll kind of see and be like, well, you know what, maybe that kid looks pretty good. He put in some good performances. And maybe we could put him there, or something like that. So, Garnacho's reps would be insane to accept Chelsea as an option. They already have 200 wingers. Yeah, but you know, again, Lyle, like we look at that, right? As fans, as outsiders, and we're like, why the fuck? Why would you go to Chelsea? They have 200 wingers, and Garnacho and his people would be like, you go to Chelsea because you're gonna get in there. You know what I mean? Again, like they live in this little bubble of their own world. Like, be like, yeah, there's 200 wingers, but I'm gonna break through. Like, I'm gonna be in that spot because they're professional footballer. They have to have like a certain ego about them. They have to have a certain self belief. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made it to the point that they made it there. So they might look at that and be like, yeah, they have a shit ton of wingers, but he's probably sitting there thinking, and people around him are probably thinking or saying, and to be like, don't worry about that. You're gonna, you're better than, you're better than 190 of them or something like that. You'll get in there. You're gonna get in there. Also, with the negotiations, obviously, you ask for a certain amount of guaranteed playing time. So, if Chelsea guarantees him a certain spot to a certain extent or a certain amount of playing time or like a certain plan, then, maybe you go with that. They can't sell him to Chelsea or Arsenal, like how you said Arsenal were laughing stock after they let RVP join us. We can't be that club. Yeah, I don't want to be that. I don't want to see it. I think it's a bad move. I don't think it actually is a good idea in any sort of way, particularly because of something like that. I just don't think it's worth the money. Like, I don't think it's a good idea. Because we already get shit on for so many things. We don't need to add another thing to the list. I'd rather just avoid it altogether, to be quite honest. Atish Balkisen says, no one is bigger than the club. Sell him and take the money. Well, yeah, I mean, he's going to get sold. It's already, pretty much decided that he's gone. He's not going to stay. They already made the decision that he's going to get sold. We're just really discussing where we would prefer to sell him, I guess. Because I don't think anybody's really, at this point, I don't think anybody's really like, I think everybody's already accepted that it's done and it's over. And I don't think anybody's like sitting there saying, don't sell him or anything like that. I think everybody's pretty much accepted that, his time is coming to an end. It's over. He will be gone. So it just, you got to play the game. Where is he going to go? How much money can you get from him? What kind of deals you got on the table? What's the best offer? What's the best decision? And I think that's still going to take some time because right now he's on vacation. He's on holiday. He's in Rome or something, or Italy. So he's running around over there. So they're not even, it'll probably start up once this week closes and when it reopens, and then the ball will probably start rolling after that. So if Chelsea are willing to accept swap deal for Garnacho, who would you take from Chelsea? I don't know, man. They got a lot of players, and they got a lot of young guys as well. There's actually probably a couple that yeah, let me take a look and I'll tell you right now. I don't know. Probably one of the younger guys, to be quite honest. One of their 200 wingers. I know they're not in the first team squad, but they bought a couple of really young guys, good guys with, high potential, high ceiling. Probably go for one of them. I don't know if you would be able to get like there's no way you could get like a Neto out of there or something like that. So, but it's not gonna happen anyway, really. Garnacho to Fulham. I don't think. I mean, I doubt that'll happen because I don't think Fulham are in for him. And I don't think he's. I think if it was between Fulham and Napoli, I think he'd end up going to Napoli. Lion says we accepted in December that he would leave. Well, I think in December though, I think I always said it was like 50-50 because it seemed weird. Like Ruben wasn't like Ruben was still trying to say positive things about him in the media, and he was using him a lot. I always said that he probably wouldn't have used him as much, but we were sort of limited in options after a certain point up there, and he kind of had to use him for as many games. And I felt sort of justified when we got to the final, essentially, and he benched him for it. And I thought it was quite obvious that he wouldn't have played the amount of minutes or maybe the amount of games that he played if Mount was able to do what Mount was doing maybe 2.5 months earlier. So, and maybe if Xerxes was an option as well and wasn't injured and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Garnacho will have enough. Will have an even tougher time getting regular football at Chelsea. More chance of getting regular game time at Tottenham. But my guess is he will be off to Italy. Well, I mean, this just says that like he doesn't want to go to Italy apparently. So, and his preference is to stay in the Premier League. So we got to see. We got to see what happens. Lion says he would take Chalaba easy or Madueke. Yeah, I mean, yeah, those are good options. They have more players that are not in the first team. But I mean, Madueke kind of almost sort of a straight swap type of player. Um, so and he is left-footed. Um, but they have more. They have way more, but they're all in the reserves and they're all on loan. I can't remember the names, but I remember seeing that they picked up one or two. And I was like, damn, those are actually really good players, but they haven't featured in the first team. They're still there. Chad says Garnacho to Forest. Nah, it's not gonna happen. Garnacho to Everton, that ain't gonna happen either. He's better than all those teams. Um, he's better than that. He's above Fulham. He's definitely above Everton for sure. The Forest are actually in a decent spot, so you know maybe you go there, but I doubt it. But let's do Mbumo so we could get to Gyokeres because we need to do these updates. So, anybody wondering about Mbumo? Here are all the updates as they came in order. So we got the first one from Rudy Galletti saying talks for Mbumo are still ongoing. Brentford are trying to secure a few million more than the last figure discussed, slightly above 60 million pounds, raising the fee closer to 65 million with bonuses. Yeah, so probably 55 million. 55 million pounds up front. Or maybe 60 million pounds up front, 5 million bonuses, something like that. But there's other update. Fabrizio coming in saying Mbumo is waiting for Manchester United as a priority. Thomas Frank is close to Spurs, so we will see what happens if he joins. But Mbumo at the moment is waiting to see what happens with United, and that's because the story's coming out because Thomas Frank seems like he's set to go to Spurs. Apparently, that means that Thomas Frank has told Spurs that to go for Mbumo. So stories have been coming out saying that Tottenham apparently might hijack the deal and that Mbumo will go to Tottenham instead of United. Then he'll follow Thomas Frank there. I don't feel like that's going to happen. He might have enjoyed his time at Brentford and maybe he likes Thomas Frank, but I think considering all the other options he had on the table and he made United a priority, and he rejected all the other clubs, I don't think Thomas Frank going to Spurs is going to necessarily change his mind in that way. He seems pretty set and on Manchester United. So I don't think it would happen. We don't play with wingers, so why would we take a winger that can't defend? Because we wouldn't, but he asked me. He asked me if we were doing a swap deal. So, but anyway, Sky Sports saying Manchester United are expected to go back in with an improved offer for Brentford forward Brian Mbeumo after having their first bid rejected and remain optimistic a deal can be struck. There are reports suggesting Thomas Frank will try and tempt Mbeumo to go to Tottenham if he takes over as their new head coach. However, it's understood the player wants to join United. As I just said, this is what's being reported coming out. Again, I'm not worried about this in any way. I think we will get this deal. I think it's just kind of sort of just, minor haggling BS going on for a few £1,000,000. Brentford want the most money. United are trying to pay the least. I don't think we're that far off. So I think, we should probably be able to get this deal done by this week, really, at least agreed, and getting moving forward. This deal only came about last week, so in terms for United, it is actually decently fast because we got the major updates where the update where it said that he has chosen United was last week, so it's only been 1 week, so it's not a bad place to be in necessarily. But Ben Jacobs saying Mbeumo has made his preference to join Manchester United clear, and all suitors are aware. Reports of Spurs' hijack for Mbeumo are now premature. Manchester United solely focused on trying to agree a fee with Brentford. Manchester United are currently the only side in formal talks with Brentford. So again, I have no worries about this. We'll get this deal done for sure. And yeah, it's really in our hands. I don't think anybody's really going to be hijacking. Nobody's going to come in and change Mbeumo's mind. It's quite clear he's been set on Manchester United. He rejected all of the teams for us, and considering the list of teams that were there that can offer him Champions League, I don't think Thomas Frank going to Spurs is going to make him change his mind, because if that was the case, then we wouldn't be in the stage that we're at. He wouldn't have picked United. He would have ended up just picking a different team. So he's clearly set on United. He wants United. And everything else is pretty much irrelevant to that point. So, but the last update on this is just that Manchester United are still interested in Semenyo, despite their current focus on the deal for Mbeumo. Mbeumo is considered Man United's top target at the moment, with a new bid expected soon. That's from Sky. And this just means, no, we're not getting a third number 10. This just means literally Mbeumo is the number 1 target. Semenyo is the backup option. If for whatever reason, somehow, which I don't think is going to happen, but never say never, I guess. But if for whatever reason we can't get Mbeumo, or Mbeumo, the deal collapses or whatever, then we would shift our attention to Semenyo. He would be, choice number 2, and we would go for him instead. But I don't think there's any real worries about that. So I don't think we'll be getting Semenyo, because we'll be getting Mbeumo. Mbeumo says, Lion says Mbeumo is coming to United. Theo Petro says Gyokeres erased the Sporting name from his profile. Did he really? Reported he is mad because Sporting is asking for more money. Yeah, Nubis said that before, so we're gonna get to that. We got one to two updates. So, and we're about to start talking about Gyokeres right now. So, just one of the things before we do, after Brian Mbeumo, and this is what I said before, and this is what has been being reported to us and stated to us for quite some time now. So, with the Guardian Sport saying after Mbeumo, United still want to sign a striker and a center midfielder and a goalkeeper. So, again, we're going to get the 210s. We're going to go to the striker. And after we get the 210s and the striker, we're then going to go backwards. And we're going to look to get a midfielder. And then whatever we can do with the goalkeeping situation, we're going to try and get a new goalkeeper. I don't know how that's going to go. But at least the plan is to try to do something there, and hopefully something materializes from that. This is one that has to do, and we're going to start talking about Gyokeres now. Lyle says Gyokeres update in Discord. Okay. But, so, this kind of ties in a little bit of everything. It says, Fabrizio said, this was yesterday, by the way, said that the potential exits of Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, and Garnacho are crucial to any deal involving Viktor Gyokeres. The potential transfer is seen as a difficult one, but Manchester United are continually in contact with his camp. We have been in contact with his camp at the very least, so we are making some sort of moves on a minor level, but we're there kind of quietly working on it in the background. Not too much going on, but small little things, small details, conversations and stuff for right now. Nothing heavy, nothing major at the time that this came out, but I know Fabrizio gave us a lot of updates. So this came from Sky Sports saying Manchester United have made an initial approach for Viktor Gyokeres through intermediaries. United are exploring the conditions of a potential deal. Ruben Amorim is a big admirer of Gyokeres, having managed him at Sporting. Well, I mean, the last part, we obviously all know. But yeah, kind of like what I was just saying, United are, we're doing minor work in the background on this. It's not like we're just sitting there doing nothing, waiting for Mbumo to get over the line. And it's not like we're necessarily sitting there and like, oh, we can't do anything because we still have to get rid of Rashford, Sancho, and Garnacho before we could even do anything. I mean, they are doing things because there's a lot of details that go into this stuff. So you gotta sort out, you know, you gotta sift through a lot of the bullshit, really, get through all that so you could get to the most important parts, and then actually the transfer can actually start heating up. But Fabrizio said Manchester United are still in contact and showing real interest in signing Viktor Gyokeres this summer. Al Hilal and Juventus are both looking for a new striker and have contacted Gyokeres about his availability. And I saw this as well because obviously Al Hilal getting involved, and apparently they want to sign him, but I don't think we have to worry about that because I think he doesn't want to go there. I think he wants Champions League or Premier League for sure. I don't think he wants to go to Saudi Arabia, so I'm not worried about Saudi Arabia. And I'm not really worried about Juventus either at the moment around these particular updates. So but Fabrizio once again saying if Manchester United had qualified for the Champions League, there would be a 99% chance that Gyokeres would join. Now it's more financially complicated. However, Manchester United are still in the race and made new contacts last week. So, I mean, it's an important thing because I think there was probably a few people that read that first thing halfway through and they were like, well, Ruben said that a player that only wanted Champions League, then we're not getting them at United. But obviously he finished it off by saying that, you know, he's talking about in terms of financials, which obviously makes sense, and which is obviously what we've been talking about the whole time, because we lost 100 million. We had an option, or we had a potential option kind of on the table to recoup the 100 million that would have allowed us to do this with ease, and that would have been selling Bruno, but Bruno rejected the offer, and there's nothing you can do about it. So because he needed to agree to leave, and he didn't, and United weren't really looking to sell him. They never put him up for sale, and there was just an offer from Saudi Arabia, and they didn't really know what to do. I guess they were waiting to see what Bruno wanted to do, and Bruno rejected it. So they were like, all right, so we're good, and they moved on. But we gotta have, there's gotta be this. I don't know. To me, it just seems weird. We get updates, you know, like the one that Fabrizio tells you, Rashford, Garnacho, and they tell you Rashford, Garnacho, and Sancho are pivotal or important to signing Gyokeres. But then at the same time, it's like, I don't. How pivotal are they? Because when you say things like that, it makes it seem like we got to sell one or two of them to be able to have the money to do it. But we're not really. I don't really feel like we're really acting like that though, because I mean, if that was the case, why would you sign Cunha and Mbumo before you sign Gyökeres? Um, because I think Gyökeres is probably one of the most important pieces. So I just feel like we do have. I, I don't know why. I feel like we have the money to do this without their sales. I think the sales will probably be for the other positions, and maybe just to balance the books overall. I think maybe we could still do the transfer, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to wait to sell Rashford or wait to sell Sancho or wait to sell. Well, I mean, I don't think we're going to sell Sancho anyway, but or sell Garnacho. I think as long as we balance it at some point, so we could probably get Gyökeres in, but we would definitely have to make sure that we get rid of Garnacho or get rid of Rashford for money so that the books get balanced out. But there was this update as well from Fabrizio saying in the last few hours, Manchester United, Juventus, and Al Hilal called the agent of Viktor Gyokeres. And that's not that. Okay. And then I will go on, I will go check right now because I know that there was more notifications. There was more updates while we went live, and one was surrounding some Viktor Gyokeres. So let's go find that and let's talk it out. So let me see where I find it because it's here. So here it is. Here it is. So this is what Nubis Kubis was saying before, where he gave us the update. Record Portugal are putting this out, saying Gyökeres is furious in, you know, quotation marks in all caps with Sporting for not honoring their agreement to allow a move for 60 million euros plus 10 million euro in add-ons. They now value him at 80 million euros. The player has removed references to Sporting from his Instagram. And I'm just going to go double check that because I'm going to jump on my Instagram and I'm going to go find his account right now and see if I could even find his real account because I don't even know which one it actually is. So I don't know. All right, here. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what his account necessarily looked like before, but I'm looking at it right now and there's no bio, there's no nothing. It just says athlete. So there's no mention of Sporting. I don't know what it looked like before because I wasn't following him and I didn't see it. But I mean, he still has all the pictures up of him in a Sporting jersey with the trophies and stuff like that. But in terms of in the bio, if he did have something there before, it is 100% gone because there's literally nothing in there. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then he's erased all of that. So, I mean, interesting development that's going on here. With that, Unders has great numbers in Portuguese league by Gyökeres, but there's a world of difference between there and over here. I think he could be a success, but I feel this is a bit of a gamble. Maybe, but he has experience playing English football as well. He did decently well when he was in the championship. Actually, he did pretty good when he was in the championship. I know it's the championship, but he still did good and he still had some experience. He went over there. And obviously the Portuguese league is the Portuguese league, but also, you know, he was doing it in the Champions League as well, and he was doing it in the European matches as well. And I just think that he has I think he has a good build in terms of like his height, his strength, mixed with his ability. So I think he would be fine. I think I think any player you get is probably a bit of a gamble, but I think his goal scoring record, and I don't really care if it's in Portugal or not. I think his goal scoring record speaks for itself. And if you watch him, his technique speaks for himself, and I think he can translate it to the Prem. I think it would be fine. Lyle says any striker is a gamble, to be fair, when it comes to United, but Gyokeres is familiar with Amorim's system, so it could work. Yeah, and I think he has the build to play in the Prem. Again, I think he has the strength, and just the physicality, but also mixed out with his technical ability, his ability to kind of to score goals out of nothing chances is definitely what we need, and he can definitely do that. He has good ability in that aspect, so I think he's the best option we could probably get out there. And I can see him doing very well in the Prem. I think he fits the Prem very well. Tio says he is a worker. He will do fine. He is as well. I've watched quite a good amount of Sporting games. Again, my friend is a Sporting fan. I've watched quite a few of them. And I mean, he is definitely a worker. There's a lot of times where, especially when Amorim was there's a lot of times where, sometimes you see Rasmus very back deep on defense. Gyokeres would sort of do the same. The only difference is that Gyokeres and Sporting, they would actually get the ball. Gyokeres would actually start the counterattack, and he'd end up finishing it off. He'd pick up the ball in defense, make a pass to one of the, I don't know if it was the 10s or the wingbacks. Somebody was well advanced. He'd give them the ball, and then he'd make like a 60-yard sprint up the pitch just to get the ball back in and around the box. And he would score. He would score the goals. Or sometimes he'd give it to them. They give it back, and he'd go in a sprint of about like 40 yards. Take the defender on 1-on-1 and put the ball in the back of the net. So, if he comes and doesn't score, Rasmus would be a happy man. Yeah. But I don't know, because that means that we're shit, though, too. So I don't know how happy he can be. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think if he comes, goals will come. Especially with the new attacking trio we'll have. For sure. So, Lion says, I'll be completely honest. I'm not aware of any other striker except the two we've been linked with, and I feel they are the best, if a bad bunch, but maybe I'm being harsh. Yeah, I think for what's available, I think that I wouldn't say they're the best of a bad bunch. I think they're just the best of what is available. Actually, I don't think either one of them are bad. I think they're both good strikers. But then other than that, once you start going down the list, then I kind of feel like it's the best of, a bad bunch. No, but I fully believe in Gyokeres' abilities, and I think he'll do just fine in the Premier League. I think he'll be actually really, really good. If he was to go to Arsenal, which he's not, because Arteta wants Sesko, and they're going for Sesko, I could see him scoring a shit ton of goals the way Arsenal play. And I just think he fits the Prem. I think he'll be absolutely fine. I think he'll do exactly what you need to do to be able to be successful in the Premier League. So, Andera says, this is the type of signing a successful club makes in an attempt to improve their side even more. What we need is a virtual definites. A proven Premier League striker is what I prefer, to be honest. We have to be sure. I mean, I don't know, because I think I mean, if you gave me some names of a proven Premier League striker, I would argue that he's better than them. So I think there's actually a good amount of them. I don't think there's actually that many top strikers in the Prem. I think there's very little that can make the difference. So I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna be quite honest. I think he's better than Mateta. Like, you would say Mateta is a proven Premier League striker. Well, I think Gyokeres is better than him. So I would take Gyokeres over Mateta. I I look at if United end up with Mateta and we don't end up with Gyökeres, I look at that as a downgrade. I look at that as we got second or third choice. Not that he's bad, just it's not the same level. Chad says we need a top center mid if we sell Kobe. We need a top center mid regardless. So I mean, that's why I don't agree with the sale of Kobe Manu. It doesn't make sense for the overall project. We shouldn't be selling Kobe, so it shouldn't happen. Ben Dover says Baleba. I mean, yep, many people say Baleba. I just don't know if that's going to materialize because I haven't seen anything about Baleba and United. That United are interested in Baleba. I mean, the midfield option right now is quite sort of non-existent to a certain extent. I mean, there's always been the Edison link, but that doesn't seem like it just doesn't seem like there's any movement there because we're not really working on that right now. So, we got to get Mbumo done. We got to get the striker in. And then I think things around the midfielder will be a lot more concrete, a lot more stronger and stuff. Would be the perfect fit. Yeah, we'll see if we could get him. I don't know if it's going to happen. Andera says, I'm coming from experience of playing in the top league. Yeah, it was many years ago. The jump up in standard is very hard, even higher nowadays. I've seen many come over and falter, unfortunately. Well, yeah, but you know what? That's football. And I'd rather, for me personally, I'd rather them take the risk on Viktor Gyokeres. I think it's a decent gamble. I think any player that we sign is a gamble anyway, because there's no guarantee that they're going to succeed and they're going to do good, whether we buy them from the Prem or not the Prem. I just think that he's a high quality striker. And I think he's probably the best option out there that we could probably get right now. So that's what I would go for. Lion says, oh, my bad. I was mainly talking. Oh, never mind. Ben says, it's a cat under some pillows. Oh, I see what you're talking about now. I didn't even see that. Oh, boy. Baleba will cost 70 mil minimum. It's Brighton we're talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's probably why there's no links. Because it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I think Baleba is one that... Baleba is a fan signing. I try not to do those because they usually don't materialize unless we're actually in for it. But I haven't seen a single link of United to United and Baleba. So for me, I don't even keep Baleba in my mind because it doesn't make sense. Because I'm just going to sit there and be thinking about Baleba for 12 weeks, and United aren't even making a move for him. I don't do those things anymore. I used to do it, but I don't do it anymore. In terms of Gyökeres' attributes, would suggest that he should be a top performer, but what United are attempting to do is build a functioning team. Mateta and Martinez is what I'd go for. But why can't he be part of the functioning team? He literally goes in Ruben's system. So why can't he be in why wouldn't Gyökeres be in a functioning team? Why wouldn't he be in the functioning team? I'm just checking to see. A lot of speculation going on. I see aggregator accounts putting eyeball emojis with a picture of Ruben and Gyökeres together. And you're just putting that out because of the story that he's pissed. I mean, it doesn't, I don't really get that because it doesn't really help the situation because Gyökeres can be as mad as he wants and he could be furious and he could tell Sporting to go F themselves. But that still doesn't change the fact that Sporting, if they're asking people for 80 million, they're still going to be asking people for 80 million. So him being mad and removing Sporting out of his Instagram profile doesn't change the situation at the moment, though. If that's true and it's accurate that they're asking people for 80 million euros, Gyokeres being pissed off and Sporting's not going to be like, oh God, we pissed off the player that's going to leave our club anyway. That he's leaving our club, we've pissed him off. Now we better sell him for 50. It doesn't change the situation. So I don't know why some people are getting excited about this because I actually don't think it's actually a positive thing. If Sporting are asking for 80, because that means that now it's become a lot. It's supposedly it was already difficult because of our financial situation. And if they're asking for 80, they've just made it even more difficult, specifically for us. And they made it more so. But maybe that's why a lot of people are a lot of clubs are not really like jumping on it because maybe they've made the minor contacts and Sporting's telling everybody we want 80 million euros and everybody's like whoa. It was supposed to be 60 or whatever it was. It was supposed to be less. Now all of a sudden you're saying 80 and they're like, yeah, that's right. And they're like, all right, well, we'll think about it. Yeah, Fabrizio 35 minutes ago on DAZN Football also said that Garnacho would love to continue in the Premier League with a different team. Staying in England is his priority. So, I mean, this is what happens, though. This is why I never really wanted to rely on the transfers. This is why I always thought it was a bad idea to do that sort of thing. That's why I was for the sale of Bruno Fernandes if it was something that was going to happen, because look what's happening. It's all good and well. Everybody makes the list. They write all the names and they say, Sancho, Rashford, Garnacho, this player, this player, this player. That's 250 million. And it's this amount of wages pulled off the books. And then we use this money and go there. But then when you get into real life, it doesn't go that way because as we see, we got 5 million for Sancho and he's now stuck in limbo because what are we going to do with him? And it might just turn into a loan and he might just run down his contract, which I think is the most plausible thing that's going to probably happen. So we might not even get a transfer fee for Jadon Sancho. We might get a loan fee and the 5 million, which is going to be less than the 25 million that we were counting originally. Rashford, that thing isn't going to happen that quick enough for our liking because I think Barca probably have to do a couple things. And also, is Marcus going to accept the pay cut? Because sometimes there's a story that says he's not going to take a pay cut. Then there's a story that says that he's willing to take a pay cut to go to Barca. Does Barca actually have the money right now? Can they even do the deal if they want? Do they have to get rid of a couple players? Because I don't know their financial situation. I see some people saying that they don't got that money and that they got to, make some moves first before they do that. So, and then you got Garnacho, and everybody's like, yeah, we'll get rid of Garnacho. Probably Napoli, 50 million or something like that. Now it's like Garnacho doesn't want to go anywhere else. He wants to go to the Prem. All right, how do we do this? How do we get this sorted? This is probably going to take a bunch of back and forth. Do United even really want to sell him to Arsenal or Chelsea is another thing. I think they probably have less of a problem with it than us because they were kind of flirting with Chelsea back in January and they weren't really against it. So I wouldn't really see how they would be against it now in terms of giving him to Chelsea or Arsenal. So, it's not it's not it's not that great. This is why I was for the Bruno sale, because it was there, it was on the table, it was 100 million guaranteed, and that money would have came immediately, and we wouldn't have had to necessarily rely on the rest of them. We would obviously still look to move them out. We would still obviously look to sell them. We would still obviously look to recoup as much money as possible and get more money in. But we wouldn't have had to wait for anything. We could have just basically done pretty much all our transfer business in terms of ins with that 100 million from Bruno, and then whatever happens with the sale of the other players happens with the sale of the other players. And actually, I think it probably would have put us in a better position, because we could have been like, we did all our business in terms of, we did the majority of our business already ins. We're not desperate for money. We don't, we'll look to sell, but we don't really, it's not like we need the money now. It's not like we're starving for cash. So we could have used it as a stronger negotiation position. Now it's kind of the opposite of that, because we might still have some money, but we don't have that amount of money. And to do 5 deals in total, we are going to have to rely on some of the fees that we get from the players. So, as I said, what we require is a team built around proven Premier League quality, players that have done it in our league. Don't get me wrong, I rate Gyokeres. The safer bet is proven. Trust me. Well, but I think we can combine that anyway, because still Mbumo and Cunha are Prem proven. So I think if we mix it up, we'll still be all right. I don't think necessarily, because for me, it just, again, I look at it and I'm like, I get what you're saying, but then at the same time, I'm like, but I rate Gyokeres basically over most Premier League strikers. There's obviously some that we obviously can't get because it's not going to happen and it's impossible. But like the ones that we would be able to get, I think he's probably better than all of them. So the Prem proven thing doesn't wash with me on that aspect for him. In terms of the squad as a whole, I 100% agree, because I've been saying that actually, I said it a couple weeks ago. I said now is probably the best time possible to actually go and try and get some Premier League players, because considering we struggle to play in the Prem, we don't really have necessarily a squad that can compete against the Premier League teams, and that's our home, and we have to be able to compete there. So, yeah, like Lion says, John Mateta is a good shout. Again, he is, and I'm not saying he's a bad player, but when I look at it, the way I feel about it, I look at him and I look at Gyokeres, and I say Gyokeres is better than him, and I think Gyokeres is the more important player, and I think Gyokeres gives a different sort of dynamic than him. So to me, it's like, if United don't get Gyokeres and we get Mateta, I'm still going to back Mateta, but it just gives me a sort of different feeling about the attack. Not that it won't be good or anything, but I just feel like with Gyokeres, it could be elite. With Mateta, it could be good. I don't know if it would. I don't feel like it would hit the same high with Gyokeres. I rate him very highly. I think he's one of the best strikers in the world. So, Andera says, what concerns me the most is that we didn't sell Bruno. Our midfield too is looking very questionable right now. Ugarte and Bruno, for example, will get run over or bullied and need muscle in there. Well, I agree. And again, I guess we got to see who we end up signing in the striker position. In the midfielder position, because they're saying that we want to get a midfielder, and they were always going to get a midfielder regardless, if Bruno stayed or not. There was a plan to get a midfielder with Bruno there, because they didn't try to sell Bruno. They weren't looking to sell Bruno, so it was always the plan to get a midfielder. But I've always said as well, the way it works with Ruben is that, again, he's not going to like we're not going to be in matches. He's not going to like randomly play a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-1-2 or something like that. But what he will do is it might be some games depending on what kind of qualities the players of the opposing team have. If we're playing a much more physical midfield, then I think you don't play Bruno and Ugarte together. But if you're playing one that maybe is a little bit more open and you could be a little bit more, you don't have to be so defensive, maybe you could do that. And that's his whole thing. And that's why he's trying to get these players that kind of play multi-position. Because when you switch them around and you can pick player up and put him in a different position, you can change the way the team plays and the characteristics. That's how he does it. Whether you agree with it or not, different story. But those are his plan Bs and Cs. His plan Bs and Cs are not to change the formation in terms of number. It's to change the shape a little bit, to change the sort of characteristics, because different players have different abilities, different mentalities. They play the game in a different way. So I think we do need a center midfielder that is definitely more physical. I think we'll get one because I think that's what he wants and that's what he's been asking for. I don't know who it's necessarily going to be, but I think it fits because it just gives him another option. It gives him a different sort of, I would call it almost like a viewpoint of how to set the team up, or maybe to make some adjustments during game. If he, started it one way and it's not going particularly well, you can add a different sort of dynamic to the squad just by putting in a different player. So Baba is here, says, hello, GGMU guys. What's up, Baba? Theo says Bruno didn't want to go. We can't do nothing about it. No, 100% we can't. I'm not saying anything like that. Literally nothing you can do about it. So it is what it is. He always had to agree to go to it. And this is what I'm saying, even about the other players. Like, it is always a problem. And, people get quite sort of defensive over it or upset about it. And I get it. But it's hard to dictate how that plays out, because the same thing, like just like how Bruno did it, and a lot of people didn't want Bruno to go, and some people did, but a lot of people, they didn't want Bruno sold. And the club would have definitely strongly considered it. And I think they would have been like, well, if he accepts it, then we'll probably accept it, because if he's willing to leave, then we don't really want him, because we don't want a player that doesn't want to be here. But he's rejected it, so he's taken the decision totally out of their hands. I mean, they could have still rejected it, but he's taken it out of their hands because he made the decision for them. Now, the same thing can happen with the other transfers. Like, we can get maybe 2 or 3 teams that put in a transfer bid for Marcus Rashford. They want him, they're willing to pay a certain amount of his wages or whatever, and they have the money on the table. Rashford can reject every single deal he wants, solely for the fact of he doesn't want to go there, or he only wants Barcelona, which means that, we're sort of powerless in that situation, because it's basically essentially him forcing us to do a deal with Barcelona solely. Kind of like how Mbumo is doing to Brentford right now, where there was multiple different offers, but he's rejected them all. And he said United is priority. And they've clearly made that quite clear, because I think Brentford would have preferred to have a bidding war between all teams. But Brentford can't really move that much, because he's got a year left on his contract. What are they going to do? Threaten him that he's not going to play or something like that? I mean, that's not really going to work. And they're kind of being forced to solely negotiate with us. They clearly they would love a bidding war between 4 teams and get the most money. But they're not going to get a deal, because if they even try to do something where they try to sell it somewhere else, and Boom was just going to reject it. So it's a waste of time. So they might as well just work on the deal to try and get it done with United. And it also has pressure on them, because I mean, they're looking to get money for a player that has 1 year left. Otherwise, he'll just end up running down his contract, and it's not ideal for him. But he'll run down his contract and he'll just leave the next year for free. So, Jan Collins, Nando says, more updates on Viktor Gyokeres to Manchester United. Collins. I heard Gyokeres beefing with Sporting, deal on. Yeah, apparently, so I mean, this came out when we were live. I just read it, but I'll read it again because a couple of you just jumped in here. So basically what has happened is, when I find it, because who knows where it went now. So coming from Record Portugal, which by the way is the more credible outlet in Portugal, there's two pretty much, I guess, sort of main ones. There's Record Portugal and there's Abola, Abola. Those are the two major big ones. Abola though is not really rated highly. It's not. It's a lot of like soap opera shit. It's you know, they make up a lot of shit. It's a lot of tabloid shit. Record is more actually respectful or respectable. It's more credible and people respect Record. So when Record puts something out, you can take it with a little bit more seriousness. If you ever see something from Abola, and it has to do with Portuguese or whatever, you know, take that like pretty much like Abola is the equivalent of like the Sun. So, you know, you can't really go off of that. But if you see Record is good. So Record has reported that Gyokeres is furious with Sporting for not honoring their agreement to allow him a move for 60 million euros plus 10 million in add-ons. They now value him at 80 million euros. The player has removed references to Sporting from his Instagram. So I said this before though as well, Baba. Like, you know, you asked me, you said if Gyokeres is beefing with Sporting, and you said deal on. I think the deal was always on. I was just saying this because I seen a couple of the aggregators putting little eye emojis like something magnificent is about to happen. Gyokeres was always leaving Sporting. He was always going to go. I don't view this situation as a positive. I actually think it's a negative for United, because if Sporting have broken their worded agreement with Gyokeres and they're trying to get 80 million euros out of all the teams, anybody that's interested, that's not good for us, because we're already reportedly struggling to do the deal because we missed out on Europe. We're struggling to do it for 60. If they're now asking for 80, it's not like they're gonna change their mind because now Gyokeres has deleted Sporting from his Instagram page. They don't give a shit, because as far as they're concerned, he's leaving regardless. He was always leaving. He's not going to be part of the club. So what do they have to be afraid of Gyokeres being pissed off at them? They don't got nothing to lose other than money, really, from their standpoint. So I actually don't think this is a good thing. I think this is a negative, actually. I see many people thinking that this is a good thing. They're getting excited, like, oh, this is good. You know, they're fighting, and, you know, he's definitely going to go for sure. He was always going. It was quite clear. He made that known, you know, from last summer, that this season was his last season and that he was going to go. It's actually a big problem now, because if they're actually going out and they're asking for 80 million, it just makes the deal a lot more difficult, because I don't think we have that money to spend on him, and it's an extra 20. You know, it's an extra 20, so it's not necessarily a good thing. So hopefully, considering that United does have a good relationship with Sporting, we've always had one and we've maintained it, maybe we can still do a deal. But I think them doing this has just made it much more difficult than it actually was probably already. And there were some indications leaning in a positive light in terms of that we're still making contact with him. We're still interested. He's still interested, even though we're not in Champions League. And we would have been able to definitely do the deal 100% without any player sales. Now there's a lot of sort of things that are happening that are going on. So we got to see. Yeah, we just heard the same from a gracious host. Andera says Gyokeres scores 41 league goals in 110 games in the championship for Coventry. We need to be very sure in our recruitment. So far, Cunha and nearly Mbumo. Now that's the right recruitment. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's bad. 41 goals, 110 games. I mean, it's not like elite, but he obviously started hitting the levels when he went over there with the Ruben system and stuff. You know, and lots of people, you know, I hear people speak about system players and like they're like, oh, he's a system player. He needs a certain, you know, all players are system players, because if you get a player that's good at attack and you're making him defend, for example, like if you had Trent Alexander-Arnold and Trent Alexander-Arnold wasn't allowed to do the things that Trent Alexander-Arnold was doing, and you made Trent Alexander-Arnold sit back and defend and not go forward, then Trent Alexander-Arnold would look quite shit, because he can't defend, really. He's better at attacking than defending. And so you're not going to get the best out of him. So I think when it comes to Gyokeres, the fact that he's done so well in Ruben's system, and that's when he really started hitting the highs, I think he'll slot right in. Also, I think he fits the prem. So yeah. Lyle's loading. Yeah. Lyle is loading. What Jan, sorry. Jan Collins says more updates on Manchester United transfer. Line says, I'm just saying Calvert-Lewin has many years experience in the Prem. No. Stop. I don't like you doing this to me. All right? But every time you mention Calvert-Lewin's name, it gives me anxiety. I have PTSD from previous Manchester United summers where I'm sitting there and I'm like, we need a striker because we're fucked. And every time you say Calvert-Lewin, I picture Igalo, or I picture Weghorst, or I picture just somebody that we should have never signed and that it was just absolutely shit. And you knew it was going to be shit from the second the name was mentioned, and he's the same. Like, every time you mention Calvert-Lewin, I literally get PTSD, and just like it gives me like heartburn, because it's just like I just feel like it's like that's like the same transfer that like we've done in the past already, and I was like I think I would literally cry if that happened. I think I would cry because I don't think I can handle it again. And there's pretty much every midfielder in the league are combative players. If you run through each of them, that is clear. The thing is, Bruno is a 10 and not an 8 for me. Amorim has got some decisions to make. Yeah, he does. And I think I like that, though. I like that he has decisions to make. I like that he has decisions to make because I think that's exactly what he wants. I think he wants to have a problem where he has to have decisions to make. I think it works in his favor. I think that's part of the plan for his team. I think his teams, he wants to have decisions to make. And I'm fine with that because as a manager, you gotta make those decisions and you gotta get them right. So I leave them up to him. The thing for me is, the most important part is that he has those options to make those decisions. The rest is on him. But as long as he has the options to make the decisions, then I feel okay about that. Because then, you know, obviously he starts to get it right, and I hope he does, but I'd rather be in a situation where it was like he has the options and he made the wrong decision and he fucked it up, than sitting there looking at the team and saying, what is he supposed to do? He doesn't have the options. He's fucked. Which is what I felt like I said a lot during this season. I said it for Ten Hag as well, and probably a lot of the other previous managers as well. But sometimes we're in a certain point in the season, and you look at the squad, you look at the team, you look at the players on the 11 players on the pitch, and you're like, they're playing like shit. We need to make some subs. We need to make some changes. We need something to change the game. You go look at the bench on your phone, and you're like, I don't even know what to do. Like, what do you do? Like, you start going down the list, you're like, that guy's not going to do it. He's not going to impact the game. He's not going to change the game. He's not what we need for this match. And, you're looking at like maybe we could use this one guy, but, is one player going to be able to do it? So for me, as long as Ruben gets, I'd rather have Ruben have abundance of options than a lack of options. I'd rather have Ruben have too many choices than not enough choices. Because if he has too many, he has the opportunity to at least get it. He has the opportunity, the chance to get it correct and do the right thing. Whereas if he doesn't have the options available to him, he's already fucked in a sense, because it's not there for him. Baba says, chilling about the Gyokeres deal. This is Amorim's deal, I believe. Sporting won't do him dirty, I believe. Well, I mean, that is something that could play into our hands, Baba. I mean, it's not a bad deduction from you. I mean, again, Manchester United and Sporting have always had a good relationship with each other. We still have a good relationship with each other. We also have Ruben as well, which can play a big part between Sporting, because, I mean, he is, kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like their Sir Alex in a certain way. I mean, before him, they were a mess. They didn't win a trophy for a long time. He came in, he kind of revolutionized their club for them. He got them the trophies. He got them the league. He had them performing highly in Champions League and stuff like that. So in a way, he's basically one of their legends. And I'm sure he still has a good relationship with, the president and people at the club. And then obviously Gyokeres. So I think that could play a part as well, and hopefully it does. Hopefully it does. So Tio says just remove Sporting from his profile, Baba. Yeah. Lord says, out of topic question. Where do you guys see Greenwood after the fantastic season of France? Joint top scorer in League One. Surely Britain is not the destination. I don't know. It is. I mean, I don't know where he'll end up. I felt like he kind of enjoyed his time in Spain, and I thought originally maybe he would have been at Spain, Lord, but he ended up going to France. He's done quite well there. Last time I saw anything about Greenwood, there was stories about there were a couple Premier League clubs interested in him. I think probably there's a part of him that probably feels like he does want to go back to England, because I feel like he probably feels like he's got some unfinished business, and also, not for nothing, it's home. And if what happened didn't happen, I don't think he would have ended up in a different league. He would have been in the Prem. You know what I mean? So I think there's a part of him that kind of wants to go home in a certain sense. But there's also then the optics, because I think we all know for a fact, even if some people have kind of moved past it, or maybe they didn't have a problem with it in the first place, which there are people out there, there is that aspect that he isn't going to get well received at some places when he's playing in England in the Prem. Playing in France, playing in Spain, he's kind of allowed him to fly under the radar. If he comes back to England, it's going to be different, because number one, the media is definitely going to get on him every chance that they get. But then also, just the fans. And not like the team that he would end up playing for, but all the away fans and stuff. It's going to be probably quite hostile to a certain degree to him. So I don't know where he ends up per se, because I think you would have to kind of know how he's feeling and what he's sort of thinking to really would he be comfortable in that environment? Does he want to go back to England? Because if not, then he's gonna have to find somewhere else in Europe. Um, Probably a step up from where he is and try and go as high as possible, but we'll see. Chad says, here we go. Miles says, I'm going to ban the words Calvert Lewin in the chat. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. It's a great idea. Baba says they're trying to start a bid war between us and Spurs if Thomas Frank comes for him. Nah. They can't. They can't. They could try all they want, but again, they don't. When it comes to these types of things, it's very hard to sort of do that because you need the player to be, because it depends on the individual, right? Because at the end of the day, players are human beings, so it depends on the human being. And if Mbumo is set on United, like, if you have your heart set on something and you've made your mind up, then most of the time there's no real other circumstance that's going to make you change your mind. Now, if Mbumo was going, like, if he didn't take this action in going pretty much all in on United and he was kind of sitting there and he was like, I will listen to all the offers from every club, and then I'm going to take my time to review them and then I'll make a decision. So if he was like fairly open and not really leaning one way or the other, and he was just like, everybody has a chance, then Brentford could probably couple that with, well, let's get a bidding war going. You know what I mean? But I see what you're saying, Baba, because it could be some like undercover spy type of shit where like they're sending Frank to Spurs, and Frank's gonna do them one last favor by going to Spurs to try and start a bidding war. But it doesn't really work because Tottenham can offer 100 million for Mbumo, but Mbumo can just tell Tottenham to piss right off, and there's nothing Brentford can do about it. They can't force him to go to Spurs if he doesn't want to. So if he sits there with his mind set and says, I'm only going to United no matter what you say, no matter what anybody says, no matter what happens, doesn't matter if Spurs offers me 500,000 a week, I'm going to go to United for 150,000 a week, then it's just not going to happen. So as of right now, I just don't see how anybody else can really get involved in this way, considering the way it's gone with him just saying United is basically my priority. And I don't really want to go anywhere else. Lawrence Bird says, how is the Red Devil experience in New York City? It's crazy in Southern Europe. More like Jimi Hendrix experience. Well, I mean, we do have a couple places out here, that you could go to. We have a couple United places, couple like pubs and stuff like that. They're actually really nice, and they're actually really cool. They do get quite crowded and quite packed and stuff like that. I wish they were closer to where I live, and I wish it was. You kind of have to, if you're not familiar with it, you kind of have to do a little bit of research for it, because it's not like, I mean, the city is a big place, but it's not like it's like so advertised. It's not like you're walking down the street and it's like a huge thing where it says like Manchester United or whatever, and you're like, oh shit, that's cool, and like you stop over there. Like you gotta like, because like even me, I was like, I know, at one point I was like, I know we have them, but I was like, I've never seen them and I don't know where they are. So I had to like actually go on Google Maps. I had to find them. And I'm like, all right, I know where that is and I know where this street is. And then I went to a couple of them, like once or twice and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good atmosphere in there. It's a good atmosphere. But I like mine, Lawrencebury. Mine, because I get a little taste of both. It's not, when I go to Malta, when I go to Europe, obviously, football is the main sport there. And there's Malta. Obviously, we have it on our billboards. When you watch the games, it says "Visit Malta." That's my parents' country, my family's country. And there's shit ton of Manchester United fans there. There's a good amount of Liverpool fans too, but there's a shit ton of United fans. It's mostly mainly United, Liverpool. Then you have a lot of people that they watch the Serie A, they don't watch the Premier League. There's a couple Arsenal, not too many. There's a couple Chelsea, not too many. Not as much as United and Liverpool for sure. But I like that sort of stuff too, because you played the matches. It's a different atmosphere there. You go to the pub over there. They got the huge screens going, lots of people in there. Gets very loud, gets very angry. A lot of shouting and yelling going on. So it is, I don't know. For me over there, it feels a lot more. It feels a lot more, I guess, normal. I don't know. It feels a lot more right to me. Because it just seems like it's the priority there. So it feels like it means a lot more than over here. Over here is still good, but it's just, America, American football, baseball, hockey, basketball, football, which they call soccer, is, down the list. So, Andera said 5 years ago, Reed Calvert-Lewin, he will be unavailable for around 65% of the season. Shame, because he should have made it, to be fair. Fair point. Could turn into a mess. Osimhen situation. Yeah, I don't know, man. I hope not. Baba says it's gotten quieter on Mbeumo. I feel David Ornstein dropping on Mbeumo late night. We did do a little bit of a update about Mbeumo. Pretty much. I mean, I'll just run through it real quick for you. But yeah, we're trying to figure out the second bid. I don't think we want to go past the second bid. So the first bid got rejected. And I guess we're just figuring out the details for the second bid. So the second bid should be going back in. There's this whole thing with Spurs and stuff, which again, I'm not taking that seriously. I think, the reports from Sky and Fabrizio pretty much saying, Thomas Frank and Spurs can try and tempt Mbeumo, but it's been made pretty clear by Mbeumo and his people that he wants to join United and he doesn't want to go anywhere else. So it has been a little bit quiet, but I just think that's because, there's nothing really to update. I think nothing has really happened yet. We put in the first bid, it got rejected, and we haven't put in the second bid yet. So I think it's coming. But I think at United they're really trying to. I don't think they don't want to go past the second bid. So whatever they got to do to figure out to make sure that this second bid is accepted and this deal is done, that's pretty much what's going on right now. So there's not really much that we're gonna get updated on until those sort of things clear themselves up. But also, I did hear something, and I didn't know if it was true or not. But apparently, I heard that the Brentford people, like the people at Brentford, apparently they took the weekend off, so we couldn't even work with them because they weren't at work. Like they took off, like they weren't working for the club during the weekend. So there was literally nothing we could do. Basically, Saturday and Sunday, because apparently nobody was there. I don't know how true that is. But I did hear that, and I did see that from a couple different people. So I don't know if that was, I don't know how accurate that is, but I wouldn't be surprised. And also because they're not really that much in a rush. Brentford, they're not that much in a rush to do it. So Kiko Makeda. Luke Shaw, oh boy. What should be Garnacho's price tag if we sell him to Prem teams? Surely we hike it up for them. Yep, that's what I said in the beginning of the show, Baba, for sure. It's hard though, to kind of make it make sense, I guess, because I was saying I didn't even like the 60 million price tag that we were originally going to sell him for back in January. That price tag has seemed to drop to 40 million for teams like Napoli, which I don't understand why, and I don't agree with it. I always argued United were holding out for 60, and I was like, we should probably charge them more because, or put in some good amount of like sell on clauses or something like that, because I was like, the amount of games he's played in the first team and his age with his potential and the fact that he plays in the Premier League and it's for a Premier League club, if he was somewhere else, or if it was like Brighton, they'd be asking for fucking 70, 80 million from people for his age. And that's solely because they probably wouldn't want to sell him. Other teams would want him and they would try to get him. Now that apparently it's at 40, well, when you say that we raise it for Prem teams, how much you going to raise it by? Because if we're selling to Napoli for 40, then you would probably say, well, then I guess a Prem team, you'd charge an extra 20 million. But if the original price was 60, well then, for me, like selling them to Chelsea or Arsenal for 60 just seems too low. Because if we were going to go for 60 for Napoli, now I was like, well, if Chelsea want him, tell them to pay 80. So I don't want to sell him for 60 to Chelsea and Arsenal. Again, I always say I don't like those sorts of moves, and I wouldn't do it. Like, if I was in charge, I literally wouldn't do it. Unless they offered us something absolute, like they would have to give us ridiculous money. Like they would have to give like 100 million, and they're not going to do that because that's just ridiculous. But I would price them out pretty much. I would pretty much essentially make them put in or tell them of a price that I know that they're not going to do it unless they're stupid enough to do it, and then we just laugh at them for doing it and take the money. But otherwise, I would pretty much be like, yeah, you want him? Pay like 90 million. And they'd both be like, no. And be like, okay, good. All right, you're going here. You know? Greenwood on a swivel. You know, his head wasn't really, I think there was signs early that he was veering off the path a little bit. And I don't think the club necessarily was taking care and making sure that, you know, things were going well off of the pitch, even though things were going well on the pitch. So I kind of feel like the club fucked up. But then also, you know, he's got to be responsible for his own actions as well. And he fucked up. And, you know, it is what it is. Shit happens, man. Shit happens all the time. You think he'll end up in Spain, Lions? Yeah, I felt like he liked Spain. Like, I felt like when he went there, he wasn't really for it. He wanted England. But then once he got to Spain and he played in Spain, I felt like he quite enjoyed it. So, and I know a lot of the, you know, the British people or like the UK people, like, they like to go to like Spain for holiday because it's like sunny and shit and it's nice weather and it's like the opposite of, you know, the UK. But they always they always come back to the UK. They don't stay there. So I don't know. It's not him, it's his toxic wife. All right, well, I don't know her and I don't really know him. So I reserve my judgment. Whatever they do with their lives is on them. That's what I've always said. I'm not one of these people. I understand the situation that happened, but there was many people. I mean, I always try to avoid talking about it because it's too divisive. For many different reasons, for many different aspects, for many different people, and I totally get it. I can't go against one person one way or the other because you know what? There's people out there that they may have suffered some sort of an abuse, you know what I mean, in their own life, physically. And something like that happens, I get where they come from. There's also people that they might not see it as a big deal or whatever. You know, it's a topic of conversation that it doesn't lead anywhere good. That's why I usually try to avoid it, because it's just not good. My whole thing has always been, I'm not one of these people that is gonna shout for him to be disgraced, and I'm not gonna shout in support for him. Many people used to say, she's back with him. Why does it matter? And I'm like, it's their lives. It's two individuals. Let them do what they want. It's their business. Their life has no impact on me. So whatever they choose to do, they could do that. I stay out of that sort of stuff. But I see there's a lot of people that get very heavily in it. And I always question that. I'm like, it literally has no effect on your life, though. Like, I get it if if you take the stance you don't want him at United for specific reasons, but other than that, whatever he does now and whatever happens between him and her literally has no impact on your life. So there's no reason to get all, fussy about it like many people do. Grace's question: striker Cunha, wingback, goalkeeper, and midfielder, and Bruno in the 10, or striker Cunha and Bumo, wingback, goalkeeper, and Bruno in the 8. I don't know, to be honest, Grace. I probably still lean towards Bruno in the 10, because what I'm trying to think of here is really my answer to that, Grace, is I would say both. Because as I said before, I think with Ruben, the more options you give him, the more things he'll play around with. And he can play one way one match, and he can play another way another match. One match could be a team where you can play Bruno as the 8 and it'll be fine because of the other team's characteristics. There'll be another match where you can't, or you won't get away with Bruno playing in the 8 because we will get dominated in the midfield. Because some teams' midfielders or midfields are better than other teams. So, and the way they play as well is different. So you have to mix it up, but at the same time, you can't just change it from one game to the next game to the next game. There has to be one of those, Grace, has to be the one where it's considered sort of the main option and the one that you play probably the most often, and then the other one is kind of the backup option. You play it less, but you still play it, but you play it less. And I don't know specifically, because I feel like Bruno is more of a 10 than an 8, but sometimes he's played 8 and it's gone well and he's played well. But then also there was other times that he played 8 and it didn't go that well and it wasn't that good. So I lean more towards him being the 10, because I think he's just more of a 10 regardless anyway. But I think because of him as an 8, it's been inconsistent. I think the stronger option is probably Bruno as a 10. But I think it'll be interesting to see what Ruben does in terms of what he determines is, like, I guess, the main way he's gonna line up. Because I think it's, you could do numerous amounts of things. But I mean, at the same time, competition. Competition. So we'll see, because you could have Bruno and Mbumo playing as 10s. Cunha, maybe he's on the bench one game or something, and then maybe Cunha comes in and Mbumo goes to the bench. The only thing is that I think everybody will probably say Bruno won't find himself on the bench. You know what I mean? But what should happen at the very least is that Bruno needs to be getting subbed Bruno needs to be getting subbed when he's playing like shit. That's the one thing. I can accept that he's not going to get benched because, again, I've always said it doesn't make sense if you're benching your captain because nobody benches the captain. The reason why they're made the captain is because they're reliable and they're considered your most important player. So you're not going to bench the captain. So people that say like he's always protected and stuff like that to the aspect, it's like because he's the captain. If it was somebody else that was the captain, you would expect him to play the majority of games, the majority of minutes, because they're the captain. Like that's part of the captaincy. So, but I think to make it more level and more even, what Ruben needs to do is that if we're playing a match and we're 60 minutes in and Bruno is having an absolute stinker and he's playing like shit, you actually have to take him out. Because it's fine if you start the match with the captain and you play him for 60 minutes and then sub him. You can sub the captain off. It's not that big of a deal. It's not the same as Bruno's the captain, he's been benched, and we play 5 games in a row with Cunha and Mbumo starting and Bruno's on the bench. But you can start all the matches with Bruno, but if Bruno's having a shit game, like we've seen him a couple times, where he actually does deserve to go off, I think now there's probably a good amount of competition that rightfully he should be substituted. If he doesn't get substituted, I think the criticism that comes out of that, I think will be justified because I think that doesn't, I don't necessarily agree with that. I get that he's important. I get that you consider him pivotal to the squad and an important player for the rebuild. I get all that, Ruben, that's fine. But I didn't agree when Ten Hag did it with certain players. And I won't agree with it if Ruben does it with Bruno because I think now there's actually multiple options for that position. And he also can't fall into the trap of playing Bruno in the 8 just to play Bruno in the 8 because we need Bruno on the pitch. You need, if you're going with Bruno as the 10, then that's Bruno's 10. And don't just like throw him in as 8 and make the team dysfunctional just so you could keep Bruno on the pitch. If he ain't playing good, you just gotta sub him out. That's it. You just gotta sub him out. Name the odd one out. Zubimendi, Rice, Saicedo, and Enzo, McAllister, Gravenberch, Rodri, Renders, Bruno, G, and Tonali, Bruno, and Agarte. Yeah, but what if he plays Bruno and Casemiro? But what if he plays Bruno and whoever the new signing is? Because you know, what if? I mean, I guess it depends the new signing, but depends who it is. But I mean, you know, I'll flip it back to you. Do you think there is a player out there, Grace, when you go through all those pairings? Is there a player that you would grab and fit next to Bruno and say it's no longer sort of the odd one out, or is it just solely just Bruno just doesn't belong there at all? Yeah, Henderson was also old though. Yeah, see, Grace says Bruno needs to be in the 10. Yeah, that's kind of how I agree with it. I think every once in a while, maybe a one-off couple matches here and there, Grace, maybe you can throw him there. You know, in the 8. But I think if you're gonna go with sort of the main plan, I think he probably belongs in the 10, and I think he needs to be there. I don't think you can start the season and say Bruno is now the 8 and play most of the matches with Bruno as the 8 because I don't think it would work. And so I think he needs to be in the 10. You know what I mean? I agree with you on that. I think every once in a while you can throw him in there because, again, like I said, sometimes we've done that and it's worked quite well and it was good. And people are like, I quite like him there. But then there was a couple other times where we did that and it didn't work well. And people were like, yeah, but I didn't really like him there. So I think you have to go with him at the 10, and then I think when you get the opportunity, the right opportunity, might be one or two matches in the span of like maybe 10, you can actually play him in the 8 and it'll be all right for that specific match. Or maybe we need to make some tactical adjustments or something like that during a match. Maybe we're losing or we can't get over the line, so maybe we try and be a little bit more risky and a little bit less maybe defensive, and you throw Bruno back there and you have the two other 10s, so it's a little bit more attacking, you know what I mean? So I'm lying. I'm in love with Shaw. Grace says the front three, Gyokeres, Cunha, and Boomer, are so forward thinking. Ahmad as well at right wing back, and Bruno leaving the midfield too. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although I would say Gyokeres is, again, like I think like Tio said earlier. I mean, he is a hard worker. Like Gyokeres is a guy that you will see Gyokeres. He will come back on defense and he will literally make like 60-yard sprints with or without the ball. He does it without the ball, he does it with the ball. He actually gets decently involved in the build-up play. Sometimes he's the one that's starting the attack after we've won it back on defense. Well, not us, but you know what I mean. Nah, I don't think he's going to win you any points for like necessarily defending, but I think from what I've seen from him when he played when Ruben was there, there was a lot of times where he was back there, and he would pick up the ball and start attacks, or he would just dribble like 40 yards with the ball. And Mbumo too, but Mbumo. Ahmad is definitely attacking minded, but I think Ahmad does, again, a right wing back. I think he's obviously not a defender, so obviously, you have the winger, but I think Ahmad does quite well for somebody that's supposed to be an attacking winger. I think Ahmad does quite a very good job in terms of tracking back and trying to win the ball back. There's been many times already that Ahmad has made big plays or big things have come out from Ahmad chasing down the ball and actually taking it off of the opposition and then starting an attack out of it. I mean, I think we scored one of the goals against City like that, if I'm not mistaken. So, and there was a couple other ones, but that one was one of them for sure. So he can do that job as well. And Bumo, I don't really know. I know more about like his ability to shoot, his speed, his physicality and stuff, but I don't know in terms of how he looks, I guess, defensively in that sort of aspect. Gyokeres is a beast like damn. um yeah, so okay, we just got another update about Mbumo. I see. Just one specifically. By the way, see, I would like this deal. I don't know about you guys, since you like goalkeepers and you like to talk about goalkeepers, but I just seen here that Fabrizio tweeted 6 hours ago saying AC Milan and Chelsea are again in direct contact today for Mike Maignan to discuss terms of the deal. Maignan remains keen on joining Chelsea, with player pushing for the deal to happen, but up to the clubs now. And then he just tweeted to that tweet saying negotiations still underway for Mike Maignan, club to club with Chelsea on it, on to the deadline. One to the deadline. I mean, I don't know how much he would go for, but I think that Maignan is a very, 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 very excellent goalkeeper. Probably one of the best that you could get at the current moment in time. And I would take him if we were able to get him, but you know, I don't think it's not going to happen because he's probably going to go to Chelsea. So, I just seen Andy Mitten put something out as well. So here we go. Mike Keegan and Matt Barlow said Tottenham are unlikely to enter the race for Bryan Mbeumo, with sources disclosing that such a prospect was highly unlikely. And yeah, I mean, they didn't need to tell me that. I've been saying the whole entire show that I was definitely not worried about that in any aspect. I mean, there's just no chance. For them to get involved, they could get involved all they want, but when Mbeumo tells you, I don't care what you offer me, I want to go to United, then there's nothing you can really do about it. So, you know, but Andy Mitten has just told us as well. Andy Mitten has just come with an update right now on Talk Sport, saying he's talking about Gyokeres to Manchester United. He said, I spoke to senior people at the club. He wasn't a name that I heard. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I've got no evidence that they're trying to sign him. Interesting. Well, Andy Mitten, maybe they just don't like you. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you need. Maybe they're just lying to you, Andy. You spoke to senior people at the club. I always like when they say this as well. You know, we spoke to senior people at the club. I spoke to some senior people at the club. And I know they're not going to tell us because, you know, they're not really allowed to. I mean, they could, but, you know, it would burn their sources. But I always just, when they say things like that, I always wonder, I'm like, I wonder what fucking people it was. You know what I mean? Like, I spoke to senior people. What senior people? Like the cafeteria lady that's been there for like 20 years, like the head cafeteria lady. You know, did you speak to like the head of the pitch, the maintenance, the pitch maintenance people? Did you speak to Omar himself? Did you talk to fucking Sajim? Did you talk to, I don't know, Ruben's assistant? Like, you know, what senior people at the club? Because I find it quite hard to believe that this guy has spoken to senior people at the club and they didn't mention Viktor Gyokeres, while literally every single other journalist, including Fabrizio Romano and others, are all getting updates about Viktor Gyokeres. So I find it quite interesting. Well, this guy has just pointed out, and I don't know if you guys know him, but his name is the Swedish Rumble. This guy is actually quite good when it comes to. He's a business lawyer. he's a business lawyer in sports law, so he knows a lot about UEFA regulations, PSR, and all that jazz and all that shit. He also happens to be a big Manchester United fan, and he was one that I was following when it came to things like the takeover and how United's financials look and stuff like that. He's actually very, very good. He knows a lot of stuff, a lot of details, and he actually explains a lot of things that we don't get from the journalists when they talk about finances and stuff like that. He breaks it down. But he just retweeted this and said he's not surprised because he thinks that the signing is driven by Amorim. I mean, I would agree. I think the signing has always been driven by Ruben Amorim because I think Jason Wilcox, like it's been reported to us, Jason Wilcox wanted Liam Delap. And Liam Delap was supposedly the number one target for Manchester United. But that was the hierarchy signing. That was not Ruben's first choice, and that was not Ruben's priority. Ruben's priority has always been Gyokeres. He's always wanted Gyokeres. He's always wanted an experienced striker. He was against sort of Delap, not in that he didn't necessarily rate him, but he's just of the belief that a more experienced striker like Gyokeres that he can rely on more is the better option for him for next season than getting somebody like Delap who is not that experienced and is sort of more of a gamble. So, I mean, it's quite easy and simple, really. Gyokeres is his player, and I think probably from the time he left, right before he left, I think he probably told him, I am going to come for you, so hopefully you join me, but I would like you to follow me there, because we're probably going to need you at some point. So, I think Ruben has always been trying to do that. So, Grace says Andy Mitten is a muggle. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. We don't need a goalkeeper. We have the world's best currently. But if today's opposite day, then it makes sense. We do need a goalkeeper because we have the world's worst currently. I like that better. Breaking and Boomer wants to join United. This is great. Delo emoji's going off. Andy Mitten is very well connected to Manchester United. That's what I'm saying, and I know that. So I'm not trying to like. I wasn't trying to like say like he doesn't have sources or anything like that. I just like when they say they speak to senior people because it's a very vague term, and it depends on what senior people you're speaking to because. Again, he said that that's not a name that he heard, but it then depends what senior people you're actually speaking about because, if we knew the senior people, we would be able to tell, well, that person might not really know. Why would that person really have some information about that? They're not really involved in this sort of stuff. So just because they work there at Manchester United and they're in a senior position doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have all the information on what's going on surrounding updates and transfers and stuff like that. So I guess it depends. Oh yeah, we got stickers. No, we didn't buy stickers. We have stickers. We made stickers. We have stickers. Absolutely. And Dara says I played against Jason Wilcox as well. Showing my age now. Did you really? What position did he use to play? Undero. Jason Wilcox. I didn't even know Jason Wilcox played. I mean, I assume he played at some level, but I didn't. I never took the time to look into his history of playing. Zubamendi. Baba says Zubamendi. Blocks Arsenal move, waiting for Madrid as per Marco. I did hear that. I thought they already, to be quite honest, I thought they already signed Zubamendi, and I was talking to my buddy that's an Arsenal fan yesterday, and because we were obviously we watched the Portugal Spain game, and you know he was like Zubamendi come to Arsenal, and I was like, didn't you guys sign him already? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh, I thought you guys signed him. Like I thought that did like I thought it was done like weeks ago. And he's like, no, because he's like this happened, and he's like now Madrid have entered the thing, and I'm like, oh, you guys are fucked. You're not getting him. Um, so he was like, no, he was a left winger. Is he really? I'm gonna have to go look up his stats. I'm gonna have to go look up his stats. Here he is. Look at him go. Was a professional English footballer who played as a left winger from 1989 to 2006. He played for Blackburn Rovers, Leeds United, Leicester City, and Blackpool, winning the Premier League title. Damn, he won the title with Blackburn as well? I didn't fucking know. I did not know that. I did not know that. He played. He didn't have a very long career, did he? Huh. Just didn't go to many teams. Um, yeah, he played 406 matches, had 37 goals, and 47 assists. So he was, he definitely wasn't elite. He made 3 appearances for England. They had 3 international caps as well. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. Anybody else? Anybody else with some updates? No. Gonna work on some more emojis, Eric. Probably have them ready for the new season. Yes. Sounds great. Yeah, I was gonna say we could probably get some more. Uh Definitely. We could update some. Make some for the our new signings, those will be hype. Those will be hype. So we could get ones for all the new signings. I think that would be good. And then whatever you come up with, because you have good ideas, Lyle. So um some some other ones, whatever. But I think for the signings, I think we should have one for each signing, probably. The main signings, not like Leon or something, not Diego Leon, but first, like Cunha and Bumo. I'm gonna throw it out there and say Gyokeres because you better get him. Um, you know, so um, but I am gonna get out of here because I gotta go do things, and it's getting kind of late. So been a good show. Good updates, good chat because we didn't chat for a couple days, so it's good to get back. Good to hear from all of you. Lion says Lyle does have good ideas, doesn't he? He does. He does. He does. He's very creative. I mean, he did a lot of stuff. I mean, I didn't have to tell him nothing. He designed. He designed basically everything. He designed all the emojis by himself. I think the emojis are fantastic. I like the Newton Heath one a lot that he did with our badge, with the logo for the Red Devil experience. I like that one very much. I like them all, but yeah, I think they're very good. And then he also did the Discord as well. So and the Discord came out very nice. So yeah, he's got good ideas. He does very well. Yeah, this one, I like this one a lot. I seen that one and I was like, oh, I like that. I was like, I didn't think of it, but I was like, I should have. I should have thought of it. I wonder if we can make them. Do you think we can make them bigger, Lyle? Or we can't? I don't know how they look on other channels, right? But I feel like we should be able to see more of the details. But maybe not, because maybe, it's just a YouTube thing. So Newton Heath colors, yes. I like that one very much. That was a brilliant idea. Uh brilliant. Brilliant. Also, I gotta check to see. I was thinking the same thing. I went according to the specs I found online, but we'll play around. Yeah, I mean we could try. I know that they ask for it to be really really small. Like one of them I had to resize myself because I don't know what happened, but one of them you sent to me, they were like it wasn't the size, so I resized it myself. Um, because it literally wouldn't let me upload it. So I don't know, but like I guess I gotta go into somebody else's channel and see how they look in there to see if they, can you actually? Because I never really paid attention to that stuff. So honestly, like, can you actually see like details in the other ones, or is it just because they're so small that you just can't? Maybe there's a way to make it look more detailed while it being so small. I don't know. Oh shit. Line says very cool. Discord is a laugh. Discord. Sometimes I just jump in there. I read some things and I go, know what's going on in here anymore. Um, but yeah, it's a good time, and the best thing that I love about it is that you guys have a good time, and I don't need to be involved in it, and not because I'm saying I don't want to be involved in it. I'm saying because it's a space where you guys get to stay connected to each other without us having to be here and be live. So, and you guys can talk all you want. So I like it for that specific reason as well, because you guys just chat like almost all day at all different times. And our time differences don't line up particularly well. Like you guys are doing, I don't know what you guys are doing when you're doing them when you're chatting, but like most of the time, the reason why I'm not in there is because I'm at work. Um, I'm at work. You guys are chatting away, and I'm at work. And I pop in, I just read the messages, but I don't really have time to reply because I can't. So, and Lyle says, on that note, get in the Discord with the Discord link. That's right. Do get in the Discord. We need more people to join. I don't know where Grace is, but Grace, I want you to join Discord. You haven't joined Discord. You don't have a choice. I'm making it mandatory to use your own words. You got to be in there, Grace. I don't know why you haven't joined, Grace. But you don't have a choice anymore. I'm making you join it. So, uh, it's strange how we have a good time without Eric. Now you mention it. Oh, come on, come on, come on. Listen, yeah, you have a good time without me. You have a great time when I'm there. You know, because good's all right, but great's better. So you could have a good time without me, but you have a great time with me for sure. Um, I go in there and I drop bombs. Can I say that on YouTube? Am I gonna get in trouble for that? I drop microphones. Yeah. Says who's Eric? Uh, you know what I heard today? This is how we're gonna end the show. I heard today. I was listening to one of the channels, right? On my way to work, and in the morning, because it was like about 5 o'clock in the morning here. So there's a couple of the United channels, they do whatever that is, midday for you guys. And one of them said something that I thought was actually quite funny because it made me think of Axe. And they were saying something along the lines of, like, they like this period right now because United isn't playing football, and there's sort of like a calmness to a certain extent because there's no football, nothing's going to happen, and there's no choice but to sort of kind of just be patient because we have to go through this period of the transfer window, and everything else is kind of um kind of just like there's nothing really like football related to United. So there's just sort of this peace right now, this sort of calmness. And then they followed up by saying, you know, if you're Ruben out, you kind of they're like at this moment like you can't really do anything but go on vacation. They're like you got to just they're like you have to just take a break. You can't be Ruben out in the middle of the summer window. You can't be saying Ruben and nothing's going on. And they said that and it made me think of Axe because last time he told us he was going to come back in August, and I was like, he actually did. Yeah. I was like, he actually left though. He left. So I was like, I was like, maybe they're speaking facts because I was like, he said it. I was like, he doesn't know Axe, but I was like, Axe is Ruben out, and I was like, Axe was like, well, I'll see you in late August. So I was like, you know what? I was like, they're probably right though. I was like, you can't really be here screaming Ruben out because nothing's going on. And I was like, if you are Ruben out, you gotta wait till the season starts to be Ruben out because you gotta wait for the bad results to say Ruben out. But I was like, you can't really say Ruben out right now. So I guess all the Ruben out people are kind of they're just gonna go on a big holiday, you know. Um, And Dara says Eric is our new 80 million pound signing, don't you know? And I'm contemplating a comeback. Let's go. We'll get it done. Listen. Listen, we can't be much we can't be worse than Alexis Sanchez and Di Maria. We can't be worse than them, that's for sure. And I'm highly confident me and you, even at whatever age you're at, we would definitely be more available than Luke Shaw, for sure. For sure. For sure. We would definitely be available to be picked way more than Luke Shaw is going to be available to be picked. So we have a couple positives in our corner. We have a couple things going for us to make our claim, our case to get into that team, you know? Um but they'll probably rip up my contract though on Daryl because if they put 80 million if they paid 80 million for me, the first press conference I get, I'm just gonna put it all on the Glazers. Well, I can't even put it on the Glazers now. I gotta put it on Ineos, right? I'm gonna put it all on Ineos. I'm gonna be like, I don't know why they spent 80 million on me. They're idiots. They're idiots. I'm like, I'm only worth like, 1,000 pounds. Lion says, "Come on, that's just nasty." It's true though. I would be fit. I might not last 10 minutes on the pitch running, but I'll be available to get picked for sure. Um Mohammed Saray Ringo says Gyokeres. Yes. Yes. Yes, Gyokeres. Yes. Um those are going to pop up on the 19th of July in Sweden against Leeds. All right. Well, I'm getting out of here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, everybody that smashed the like button. If you didn't hit the like button, please make sure you hit the like button on the way out because it is greatly important to the channel and it helps us get pushed out there and it helps us get more views. And in turn, it'll help us get more community members and stuff like that. So, yeah, make sure you do that. Shout out to all the new people. I see that we actually got more subscribers. We're at 3,040 right now. So shout out to all the new people that subscribed. Appreciate you all. We are on the road to 3,500. We will get there. And then we will start a new road after that to 4,000. And we're going to keep going up and up and up. We've been making fantastic progress in that aspect. So let's look at this. The poll. 87% of people said that they smashed the like button immediately, and 13% that they were doing it when they saw this. So I don't know how many likes we're at right now. If I could get sort of a live update, I will shout it out. But Shaw is keeping all those videos in work. He might be. He might be. Ondaro says, "I think my days are gone, Eric. I'll have to be an onlooker being almost 49. I'm probably only worth around the equivalent to a loaf of bread." 22 likes. All right. So we did well. We did well. Not bad. Not bad. 22 likes. 23 likes. I see. 23 likes. Oh, I'm going to add one more. 24 likes now. Come on. We end the show on a high. As many likes as possible. 24 likes. 23 likes. 23 likes, 24 likes. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. David Beckham when he went to Real Madrid, 23. I can't think of any more. Luke Shaw, 23. Who's 24? I can't think of any more names. LeBron, 23. 23 seems to be the key number. Yeah. So I don't think I'll be able to go live tomorrow because I think there's something I got to take care of. And I don't think I'll make it back in time. So hopefully we don't get a Mbumo here we go or something like that, because I'll be pissed because I won't actually be able to do a live. And then we'll probably either go live Wednesday or Thursday, depending on, I guess, you know, what kind of news comes out. Because it has been kind of a little slow the past couple of days, so I feel like hopefully maybe one of those days, you know, there'll be some significant updates, and we'll go live for that to cover all the stuff. But then obviously, as you all know, we'll obviously be live Friday for sure, no doubt about it. And then we'll see about the weekend how it goes as well. I'll keep you guys posted like I usually do. So, you know, and you get the updates in the Discord. Sometimes I forget to post to the community post, but the community post isn't even that great because sometimes you guys it doesn't reach everybody. So Discord is the best because I can literally tag you in all of it. You guys get the message directly, and it's just the most easiest, most direct way to stay up. So Luke Shaw is number one, baby, not the number one, baby. Obviously, he's a man. He's the man. All right, I'm getting out of here. Everybody have a good night. Thank you guys. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Everybody have a good night. Be good. Stay safe. And we'll chat very, very soon. All right. Andera says cheers, Eric and chat. Yep. Cheers to you too. Thanks, guys.